good morning, amazing Lawnard. We are knee deep into May at this point. It's Tuesday, it's May 18th. I think last week we left off with me saying, hey, I think we're going to have to wait for the next court date in Murdaugh, and we probably won't hear more about it for a little bit. And then it just won't stop. And then it just won't stop. So today we are talking about Murdaugh again. And then either way, we are going to stop talking about Murdaugh because I am going to be off for a little bit as my oldest graduates from high school and moves into spring training camp for his marching summer season. It's going to be incredibly busy. It feels, Murdaugh is starting to feel a bit Twilight Zone-y to me, but it is what it is. So today we're talking Murdaugh. Look, we've got new information from the prosecutors. We've got a new press conference from the defense, and Courthouse Becky got herself sued. We're going to talk about that. I owe some of you an apology. Also, my posts on YouTube and Instagram have had a lot of comments. So we're going to talk about it. Hey, Joe, I wanted to answer this question first. Hey, Joe said, I love your earrings, but I thought they were gold. I have a gold pair, a silver pair, and a rose gold pair. I can't find my black pair, and they don't make them anymore. And I'm really sad about that because I also had a black pair, but I have multiples. You never know what mood you're in on a given day. Today, because some of my earrings are silver, some of them are rose gold. My watch is gold. I'm a mixed metal girl. It's all the things. But also, Lawnards, I owe some of you an apology. We need to chat. Much has been going on. Family is traveling on a plane at the moment. Emily, is your house ready for company? I mean, y'all with ADHD, you let me know the answer. Take a guess at what time I went to bed. You let me know the answer. Because there is nothing like people coming into town for a new project to be needed. The fact that I did not wallpaper like a bathroom shows that there is some restraint, because the way I decided that I needed to wallpaper a bathroom, it's going to happen. Y'all, a lot of you are at the 3 a.m. mark, 3:30. Well done, Lawnards. Well done. Yeah, you guys have clocked it immediately because you're my people. 3:30. It's good. And then we were up early because we had more to get done, and Travis has been so delightfully helpful. It's been so busy. All right. Are we ready to go? Mastermind in the chat said Team Jacob or Team Edward. Today, Team Bloodworth, and we're going to talk about it. Let's get going. Or dangerous. You pick. Hey there, I'm lawyer and legal analyst Emily D. Baker, and this is your go-to destination for live court coverage. I break down the law, the strategy, and the evidence in real time, so you know what's happening. No law degree required. So join the law nerds in the chat. They're here for the facts, not and let's get to court. All right, law nerds, I am almost done with my coffee. You let me know where you're coming in from, what you're drinking. I, at first, need to apologize to a few of the law nerds. Law nerds, to those of you that I owe an apology, bring it in just for a second. Becky, I am so sorry. To all of our law nerds named Becky, I saw the news that Alec Murdaugh was suing Courthouse Becky, and I could not help but send out an app notification with the first thing that popped into my brain, which was, buckle up, Becky. However, I realize, after a lot of you noted to me, that might have been like, what did I do? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I will make sure to designate Courthouse Becky, but I liked the alliteration so much. I really did. And it was literally the first thing I thought. So for all of the Beckys who I scared the shit out of yesterday, when you saw the app notification that just said, buckle up, Becky, I am so sorry. I'm sorry. I did not mean to scare the crap out of you. You do not have to buckle up. I mean, you should buckle up always, but you do not have to buckle up for getting sued by Alec Murdaugh. We're gonna leave it with Courthouse Becky, so that it's clear to everyone whose who ends up with their name being one of the names I'm yelling at stream. I also understand that it can be traumatic to have your name being hollered over the internet day after day after day. So, but buckle up, Courthouse Becky, because we've got words. Also, I know that there is at least one Becky in our chat whose family has nicknamed her Beckaboo. I am so sorry that Courthouse Becky has taken a dump on your nickname. I am so sorry. The only reason I have referred to Courthouse Becky as Beckaboo is because that's how she signed a bunch of her emails when we went through her emails, including to Nancy Grace. Like, the more she was trying to butter somebody up, the more that she was just like, XOXO, Beckaboo. So for those of you whose nickname is also Beckaboo, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all the lovely Rebeccas who might be going back to Rebecca. I am sorry, Becky. Jay in the chat said, I am Elizabeth. Does anyone realize how often Emily tells me to get in the car? Well, and now if you have a friend named Becky, it's get in the car, Elizabeth, and buckle up, Becky. Yeah, buckle up. So Beckaboo is getting Becca sued is what's happening today. We're going to talk about it. We are going to talk about Alec Murdaugh. But first, a lot of you had a lot of questions about your favorite legal law nerd, Attorney Bloodworth. Look, here's what I know to be true and love the most about this community. Love you so much. Here's the thing. The way that the law nerds will stand the Real Lawyers of Park City over like the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City is just giving me life. Absolutely giving me life. Also, Mrs. Bloodworth, so I remind the law nerds to be respectful. I think that they were, but they definitely have strong feelings about your husband in country mode. So, I hope that there is a chuckle. I am sure that there is, because I don't think it would be otherwise, because the law nerds are so incredibly kind. And again, all of your comments were hilarious and incredibly kind. So yes, I got to spend some time with Attorney Bloodworth over the weekend. He was in Nashville for a concert. It was lovely to get to spend some time. We had a blast. We got to talk so much. And then I was like, I have talked too much. I have talked way too much. All of the talking. But we had a lovely chat. We will at one point have a lovely chat on the record for the law nerds. Do not worry. But we had a lovely chat. We got to talk about kind of all the things, but also life, what this weird thing is that we do over here on the internet, because before this case, Bloodworth was not aware of the lawyers on the interwebs doing all of the things. And so it was fun to get to talk about kind of the journey to here and the, life, lawyering, his journey, my journey, probably more of mine, because I talk so much. I was also just so excited. Kimberly said, who recognized who? We planned to get together and have a chat and a meal. So that was planned. I had reached out to Bloodworth after I'd reached out to him for a comment on something on the docket when the defense exhibit was on the docket and then sealed. I had reached out for comment on that. Did not receive a comment on that. Then reached out when we did the interview with Todd Gabler and asked for a editorial clarification on the name of his doggo, and received official comment on the name of his doggo. And then after trial, he let me know that he was going to be in Nashville for a concert. And I was like, I will come find you. We will have a meal. It will be lovely. So that has been really fun. Make sure you say hi, because I'm sure he will see it in the chat. Hey, it's Bridget said, did he confirm the use of the Lawnard words was intentional? Did anything Bloodworth say in that trial seem unintentional to you? Anything? Anything at all? Did anything seem unintentional and unthought out? Yeah, no, not at all. I did ask if Judge M was as delightful a jurist as Judge M seemed through the screen, and that was to the affirmative. That Judge M is, in fact, a delightful jurist when you are in court as well. Because I was, I imagined that was same, but also same. So, not unintentional? No, wait, that's a double negative. Not Sarah Boone style. So, had a lovely chat. Mr. Bloodworth is lovely. We had a very nice time. So, Lawnards, now you know. If any of you end up in jury duty in Park City, you're gonna be like, wait, where's Bloodworth? I know. It's going to be amazing. That is Travis giving me a call. But it was, we had a lot of fun. Hopefully I didn't talk too much. I always feel like I do, though. I'm always like, oh, I talked so much. But I also passed along all of the Lawnard love and excitement for really, we stand competence above all. And so I passed along the we stand competence. And also, I passed along how shocked I was at the meme reveal, and then how there is more information that just keeps happening, even in the sentencing memo. And so much stuff. So it was very fun to have a chat. So that was fantastic. And we had a very nice time. So Lawnards, yes, the words, not Sarah Boone style. And we are still not done with Corey Richins. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. Remember, she's back in court June 5th to see what's happening with her financial crimes case, and is going to have to get new lawyers on that. So that's going to take a minute. And then the civil cases are still ongoing. And so there's that. So is there an interview coming at some point? But I'm going to wait till the cases are done. Can you imagine? I would love to talk to Bloodworth with y'all about nothing involving any of the cases, but also it's sometimes just a little bit easier to wait till all of the cases that we are covering are done, and we'll see what's going on with the financial case, and then we'll decide from there. They haven't even gotten new counsel on that case, so it'll take us a little time, and then we'll see. Because if that case is going to linger forever, we might find a time to talk about his journey in life and law and all things other than the Corey Richins case. Though I wonder if we could ask about when the original precedent was set for takesy v. backsies. And I did share that the Lawnards are now deeply invested in Pretty v. Please, and what other precedents we might see. So we might also have to get to like FA v. FO and see what happens there. I think we saw the FO in court for sentencing, and a lot of you are saying that Banfield is June 5th. I know we're going to do the Banfield sentencing live. I don't think the status hearing, I think, is a WebEx hearing. I don't think it will be streamed. We will either, if I'm still in Banfield, someone on Team Baker will attend and let us know what happens. But it's really going to be a setting date for Corey needs new lawyers, and we will see the restitution hearing in court, though. So we will do that. Did I ask about Bryce's pants? I am still trying to get to the bottom of Bryce's pants. No, God, that does not sound correct. I am still trying to figure out where in the world are Bryce's pants. A lot of you are asking a bit about Bloodworth's background. I would love to let him share that for himself. But yes, he was oh, hey, we banged. We're going to have to celebrate a bang. I owe you one, and I heard that one. I am going to have to let him share that. But yes, he was JAG. But also, law nerds, does anybody else know anything else? And if any of his friends or family are in the chat, that's cheating. No, it's not. It would be fine. What else Bloodworth did in the military? I'm going to let you answer that. I'm going to start pulling up what we need for Murdaugh, because we've got things. I mean, other than setting the precedent of takesies v. backsies, a lot. Yes. Some of you have clocked it. Becky RN said Ranger. Yep. A lot of you have clocked. Not the Jess said Army Ranger. Maddie Flap said Army Ranger. Yeah. Yeah. So when you are looking at Bloodworth being the calm in the storm in court, he was an Army Ranger. So the dumb fuckery of what was going on in court at times, when Bloodworth is standing there just being like, right. Unbothered. Absolutely unbothered. I mean, also, yes, Chad. Chad has also decided, of course, that Bloodworth is, 4 centuries old. So it is a wisdom that comes with time. The only question is he older than Doctor Who or not? I mean, I guess that's fair. One of you in the comments on YouTube said, wait, he shows up on camera? Yes. Though I imagine living your whole life as a Bloodworth, you have heard all of it before. So, law nerds, I know. Look, we stand competence. The Judge M Bloodworth duo was fantastic. At some point, I might just petition to have cameras in that courtroom all the time, because it was just a delight. Takesy v. Backsy is still one of my favorite moments in court. Not because Takesy v. Backsy was hilarious and a really funny way to express the sentiment of, just kidding, Your Honor, we need to do this. The fact that Attorney Lewis was so locked into fight mode that she couldn't see the moment of levity also indicates to me who was in control of that courtroom. And the fact that the defense did not feel very much in control and were not calm and limbo in that moment. In trial, you need to be calm and limbo. You need to be able to assess the situation, respond to the situation, and you need to be able to shift. You need to be able to read the expression on the jury and shift. You need to listen to the things that the people are saying on the stand and be able to respond to them. If you are so locked into fight, your brain is just not as creative, but also it shuts down a little bit. And I think Lewis missing the joke indicated how kind of stuck that she was. So OC2Love2OC said limble isn't a word. It is in the Law Nerd dictionary because it was coined by one of the judges in our trial. So one of the judges was talking to the attorneys about needing to be limber and or nimble, and it came out limble, and we have adopted limble. So it was an adaptation, but don't worry, it happened in the Walsh case. We tend to adopt the little moments where a word comes out wrong, not like a mispronunciation, but like a mashup, which happens to me all the time. It also happened with exhibities. So we have some of those that came from cases where everybody's just working and the words we knew the judge was trying to say limber and nimble at the same time, but limble is now in the Law Nerd dictionary. So it's exactly just like gruel. I do this all the time too. Yep. Trina said, what is takesy v. backsies? We have that moment, I think, time-stamped from the Richens trial where the prosecution had indicated before a break that they were going to do A, and then after the break, they needed to do B. And so Bloodworth was being cheeky and said, Your Honor, invoking the, I'm summarizing, but invoking the principles of takesy v. backsies, citing, hey, Your Honor, we need a takes backs. We need to take back what we said. We need a doodly boop. We said we were going to do this, but we need to do that. Sorry. So instead of the defense saying, no takesy backsies, you said you were done or whatever, he was kind of joking with the court, citing the principle of takesy v. backsy, like we need to reset a little bit. We're not going to do that. And Lewis was just like, Your Honor, I don't even know what he's talking about. I don't even know what this case is, and got kind of flustered about it. And the judge just looked at Miss Lewis and was like, I think he was making a joke, which we saw a couple times from him during trial with at one point the court was like, does anybody need a break? And he was like, the state has had too much coffee. A bathroom break would be great. So it was a made up case to make the joke, which is how we ended up. Was it a week ago? Was it 2 weeks ago? Time is a construct, which is how we ended up with the chat coming up with Pretty v. Please when we were watching the Karen Reed hearing. And the lawyer was basically like, well, Your Honor, we don't want to turn it over yet. It would sure be great if we could just turn it over later. Could you just, what principles are you citing? Just vibes. We sure would love it if you just wouldn't make us do this now. And that ended up becoming Pretty v. Please, because it was really basically, please, 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 Your Honor, just don't make us turn it over now. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. So why not? So we'll see. FAVFO, I am going to use, and I'm sure others will come up, but Pretty v. Please was very funny. And Takesy v. Backsy, A, was amazing. And B, in the middle of trial, there are these moments of levity that I just absolutely love. Speaking of moments of levity in trial, how many of you watched the Murdaugh trial with me? Go ahead and put a 1 in the chat. ACP, good to see you, Tony. Coffee v. Bladder, yes. Yes, I love Cherry Balm. Oopsie v. Daisy is also perfect. A lot of you watched Murdaugh. Do you remember the defense pointing a weapon at Murdaugh's side of the table, or the prosecution side of the table, being like tempting, right? There were moments of levity in the Murdaugh case that were also shocking to me. And chat was like, South Carolina doing South Carolina shit. And I was like, I don't even know what's happening. There were some moments in that trial where I'm like, I don't know what happened. And then we got to jury instruction, and the judge was sitting on the bench with his amazing South Carolina accent, just being like, and the cloak of innocence surrounds the defendant. And I was like, this is so wild. All of it was wild. There were moments. No, it was the cloak of righteousness. Sorry, the cloak of righteousness was what was quoted in the jury instructions. And I think they were the first jurisdiction that I saw that their signed affidavits ended with further affiant saith not. I believe I'm quoting that correctly. And I was like, this is delightful. I love it so much. And then Poot was Putin. Metters was preaching from the well, and, identical. It was so much. And we are going to be doing it again, it seems. But it's not the only thing we're going to be doing again, because now we have another lawsuit. So we are going to take a look at what happened over the weekend. Then we are going to take a look at the press conference about the lawsuit. And then we're going to take a look at the lawsuit together. Banana Split said, but why do they say Alec when his name is Alex? I have no idea. And they sometimes pronounce it Elic, like E-L-I-C. And I say Murdaugh. Sometimes he says Murdoch. I know. I don't know. His first name's Richard. I try to adhere to my rules and not call him Dick. So, and then it would get confusing because then there's Dick Harpootlian, but we got like Poot and Jim. I just want to see more of Philip Barber in this trial, honestly. Barber is again the like grounding voice of reason sometimes in that defense team. And it's not to say that Jim and Poot are not competent lawyers. They are. They are very experienced lawyers. Their styles don't always vibe with me. I like Barber's style better. I find him easier to follow. It's less of the like old boys club colloquialisms. It's less of the like, hey buddy, I really like Barber's style a lot. And so I hope we see more of Barber this time, but especially when Murdaugh took the stand, there were times that Jim seemed like he was absolutely struggling doing the direct examination of his friend who was on trial for murder. I would have liked to have seen Philip Barber take that and be a little bit more removed from the collegialness of it all, I guess. So it was an interesting trial, but there were times where it was just much, but then again, there was much on both sides at times. So again, what appeals to my sensibilities does not matter when it comes to a trial in whatever county it's going to be in South Carolina. It matters to the jurors. And that's what matters most. What do I think will happen from here? Let's do a quick road so far. Alec Murdaugh went to trial. Alec Murdaugh was convicted in like 3 hours. It was a late in the evening, surprisingly fast verdict. And then the judge is like, are we going to sentence now? I'm like, what are we doing? They sentenced him the next day, life period. He is also in custody for 40 years on federal financial crimes, for I think 28 years on state financial crimes. So he's not out of prison at all on any of this. I'm going to save this. JDK, I'm going to save your comment. I'm going to answer that question in a minute. Yes. He is still in on the financial crimes. He's still in custody on those and will be for quite a while. After trial, we saw a new motion for new trial. The original motions for new trial were very much like what we've covered here, where it's like, Your Honor, you should have done this, you should have done that, etc. Which we've seen case after case with the standard motion for new trial after trial. And what do I always say about motions for new trial? I'm like, generally, they don't get granted. Well, when they made their motion for new trial, it was based on newly discovered evidence. It wasn't your standard motion for new trial after a verdict. It was, hey, we found out something new. We need a new trial. And then everything started to unravel. And the first filing, I was like, what is happening? I look at all these files through a lens of, especially once we get to know a defense team, through a lens of, is some of this bluster? Is some of this hyperbole? Are we embiggening the facts here, or is this where we're at? So I had questions, but I was like, this is wild. What is going to come of this? Because that's when they started saying that the clerk of court had been communicating and in fact interfering and possibly influencing the jurors. And I was like, if any of this is true, this is a huge problem. And then that got a multi-day hearing. Jurors were interviewed. Courthouse Becky, former Carleton County clerk of court, got on the stand and lied. Emily, you said she lied. She lied and later pled guilty to felony perjury from that hearing. Liar, liar, Becca Boo Pants on fire. So then this gets taken up to the South Carolina Supreme Court on direct appeal for 2 appeals. We're not going to get into the ins and outs of all of that. We've covered it in other things. it doesn't really matter for our purposes today. Either way, May 13th, I'm all ready to do the Corey Richins sentencing. I'm ready for sentencing day. I am ready to see if we're going to get to FA versus FO. Is Corey going to say anything? Is she not going to say anything? What is she going to say? Who's going to talk? I am going to be all emotional. It is going to be a day. And South Carolina drops the Alec Murdaugh's getting a new trial that morning. And that's where we're at now. Alec Murdaugh's conviction has been overturned. We are back to Alec Murdaugh awaiting trial for the murder of his wife and son. Not a convicted murderer. His conviction has been thrown out. So we are now back to pre-trial. And everything starts over again with that trial. It doesn't undo the cases that he's pled to. He's waived appeal on all of those. It doesn't change any of that. But as to the murder case, we're back at square one. And we need to try to keep that in mind, that we're back at square one. But think about how hard it is to remove everything you've seen in the first trial. And that causes me concern, because this case is so publicized. And if you lived in the area and didn't know of the trial when it was going on the first time, what are you going to do after you learn about it? You're going to go watch everything about it. I think they are going to run into problems trying to find a jury. Addicted to cold brew, that is a great question. I'm going to hold on to it because we're going to get there. And a lot of you are asking about his testimony from the first case in the second trial. I will answer that question. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Don't worry. So, the South Carolina Supreme Court overturns the case. We are waiting for a next court date. It should happen in a couple of weeks. Last week, we saw that the Attorney General of South Carolina said he would optimistically like to try this case before the end of the year. I don't know if that's realistic, but we'll see. And I'm going to hold on to this question too. It's Rocky Top Girl. I'm going to hold on to that. Rocky Top, you'll always be. Emily, you didn't. I know. It's in the water. I did not go to UTK. It's in the water. It's Rocky Top is a bop. Look, it's catchy. All right. Also, when down on, real quick story, down on Broadway, because Nashville, well, down adjacent to Broadway, because Nashville, Bloodworth and I are walking to where we are going to go sit and chat. And one of the popular bachelorette rooftop brunch places is already just bopping. And they are bopping Rocky Top. So as we're walking by, I was asking the door security bouncer, yes, brunch needs, I guess, a bouncer, how many times a day they play Rocky Top. And he's like, maybe 3. This is Vanderbilt country. I was like, that is a 10 out of 10 answer. That is a 10 out of 10 answer. And as he was going on his way to concert and the rest of the stuff, and I was going on my way back to the car to get home and to finish trying to get my, house ready for company, and honestly take half of my office that lives in the guest room out of the guest room and transform it back from an office into a guest room for the next week. We walk out. I am not joking. Walk out onto the sidewalk, and Rooftop Breakfast Brunch is bumping OPP. I started laughing. I was like, that is absolutely unbelievable. Just bumping OPP. Just bumping it. And I was like, that's fucking hilarious. That's fucking hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. I was like, sometimes the universe is just like, girl, we see you. We see you. And I was like, that's so fucking funny. That's so fucking funny. Anyway, back to Alec Murdaugh. Must we? Yes. Over the weekend, I was doing all kinds of other things. I was planting in my garden, keeping the bird feeders well stocked, and getting to see Bloodworth. But apparently, the South Carolina Attorney General made a comment to the media that when you start fresh on a trial, everything's on the table, including the death penalty. Now, remember, the first trial, the prosecution chose not to pursue the death penalty. They chose to pursue life without the possibility of parole. And in that, we may or may not see the same decision going forward. However, I don't know if I have ever seen a case that was pursued as a life case, not a DP case, on the first trial, then get pursued as a DP case on the retrial. I don't know if I've ever seen that happen. That doesn't mean that it can't. It would be odd to me if it was, because whatever decision was made the first time, you would think that that holds true. And I wouldn't think that circumstances have changed so much from the first trial to now that you would change that decision, because you look at the crime and you look at the defendant, and if those decisions weren't made the first trial, it would be odd to me if they were to make that decision this time when they retry it. But it is going to come up. So we are going to take a look at what the AG, who is currently running for governor, which Poot's going to bring up a lot because politician. So let's take a look at that first, and then we will go to their press conference, and then we'll go to the body of the lawsuit, which I need to post in the lounge, because yesterday I meant to do it and then got distracted. I'm sorry. I totally forgot entirely. It will be up today. Because, you're down with ADD. Yeah, you know me. Let's talk Murdaugh. Let's do that way. That's better. Hold on. Emily fights with technology. Briefly. I feel like I've been able to do this a little bit better. I'm just like, yes. Elizabeth in the chat said, different judge this time. Yes. The delightful Judge Newman, who brought us this soundbite,
bring the jury,
has retired. So Judge Newman's retired, and I wish him well in his retirement. But also, I think this case, if I had to guess, and I don't often try to see the future, however, I think the fight over new venue and moving the trial has and will have some merit. Whether or not that will be granted or not, I think it has some merit to it. And we might see this not tried in Carleton County. We might see this moved to a different county, and that would likely move judges as well. Not all jurisdictions do that, but I think. Morning Cow says, how do we think Judge Newman feels about this? It would be difficult. I think Judge Newman seems like a very even-keeled jurist. I can't imagine a judge not being outraged by the behavior of the clerk, because it's outrageous. It's outrageous. It's outrageous behavior. And I don't think there's any way that he could have known that. I don't know if Judge Newman ever worked with that clerk before, because he was also traveling to preside there. So it's outrageous. However, here's where I would be, and I can only kind of, if I'm a judge, I am not. If I'm a calm judge, I would never be. No judicial temperament. My face faces way too much. But I would imagine that I would be offended at the presumptuousness of being able to put your hands on the scale of justice. Like, that would offend my entire pursuit of career when someone else is arrogant enough, bold enough to think that they deserve to intercede when it is not theirs to do. And the time, the money, the energy, for what? Yeah, I would be really frustrated. However, I think I would be more upset if I found out about this decades and decades later, found out about it after Alec Murdaugh passed, or found out about it at a time when the wrong could not be undone. I would be so heartbroken by that. So I guess the flip side to that is at least they're able to fix it. At least it's coming to light. Because if the evidence is strong enough, they will be able to convict him again, because that's what justice demands. And if they don't, it will raise a lot of questions about how much influence on the jury really happened. Because it's a lot. All right. Now that Alec Murdaugh is getting a new trial, prosecutors may pursue the death penalty. I don't see this going well. The South Carolina Supreme Court ordered a new trial on May 13th after unanimously finding that former Colton County Clerk of Court Becky Hill improperly influenced jurors during Murdaugh's original trial in 2023. Can you believe it's been 3 years, law nerds? It feels like it's been a million years and 5 seconds all at the same time. Because life has been lifing. After Alec Murdaugh's double murder conviction was overturned, a South Carolina prosecutor says he may seek the death penalty as the case heads towards a new trial. Quote, "In light of the Supreme Court's decision, we're back to square one on this case. And that means all of our legal options are on the table, including the death penalty," South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson said in a statement shared with People on Monday, May 18th. His statement was first shared with NBC News on Friday, May 15th. Wilson subsequently announced that his office would, quote, "aggressively seek to retry Alec Murdaugh for the murders of Maggie and Paul as soon as possible." Quote, "Our justice system provides, indeed demands, that every person is entitled to a fair trial, which includes an impartial jury untainted by external forces bent on influencing the jury toward a biased verdict," the justices wrote in their opinion, referencing Hill's comments. Hill also pled guilty in December 2025 for perjury. Right. So, I don't think we have any other statements. They go on to quote the statements made on Today. We watched that together. I do not think casually throwing out there, well, everything's on the table, goes well at all. Riley Bear said, what did she lie about? I am trying not to be cheeky. I will answer the question, but also do not deprive yourself of the joy of going to watch me covering Becky's perjury and going back and looking at her testimony on the stand. But she lied about allowing journalists access to sealed exhibits. One of the things that she's in charge of in her role is keeping sealed exhibits safe. And she lied about giving media the access to that. There are other things she lied about, but that's what the perjury count was based on. Justice Toll did not find her credible or convincing. So there is a lot of coverage of that where we go back and look at how bold it is. I don't think she lied about her name or that she had an elected position. I think she was truthful about those things. So let's take a look at a press conference. What day is it? Is it Tuesday? What time is it? Oh gosh. Okay. We need to zoom. We're going to take a look at a press conference from yesterday with Poot, Dick, and same, Poot, Jim, and Barber regarding Alec Murdaugh's new lawsuit. And then we're going to take a look at Alec Murdaugh's new lawsuit. Right? All right. Let's get dangerous. Let's go to press conference, shall we?
Okay.
Ooh, that was louder than I thought it would be.
Couple things.
That never happens. Look, a presser's louder than we thought. Delightful. Let me make sure I have our closed captioning. I'll pull that up. If you don't see it just yet, it'll be up in a moment.
We have filed a lawsuit today. We're going to discuss that with you in just a minute. I'd hoped that would have been the main topic of this press conference, but over the weekend we learned that
Emily, are they holding this press conference in the middle of a busy highway? I mean, basically, I think this is outside of Poot's offices, literally on the sidewalk, adjoining the street. It's literally right on the street. So the background noise is in fact the street.
the Attorney General has announced he's considering the death penalty in this case. Clearly, he is not talking to the lawyers in his office. He's probably talking to his political consultants who thought that was a good soundbite for his governor's campaign. The law is clear that he cannot seek the death penalty if it is due to vindictive prosecution. That is, and here's the question, what does he know today he didn't know 5 years ago?
That's my question too.
Why is he?
That's my question too. What has changed between the first prosecution and now? That's my question too. Truly, what has changed? And that's a fair question. Also, if you are looking at what is best for the people of the state of South Carolina, is pursuing this as a DP case what's best for the people of the state of South Carolina? No. The cost, the appeals, no, I do not think it is correct. Could they pursue it? Sure. Should they pursue it? I do not think so. I do not think so in this case on a retrial where they haven't pursued it before. The cost alone is a poor choice, I think. But it is accurate that everything is on the table. That's accurate. I would be surprised if we see them pursue it.
He's saying he's going to seek the death penalty. Is there some new piece of evidence? So we're a little sick and tired, and we've seen this process since the beginning of this case, where Alan Wilson plays politics as opposed to playing prosecutor. He's got great lawyers.
I think the only one playing prosecutor here, though, was Alec Murdaugh for a long time playing prosecutor. I mean, he is the Attorney General of the state. I don't think he's playing prosecutor, but I understand that it's better for the soundbite because, Poot, how are you accusing anyone of soundbiting, Sir Soundbite? Didn't you spend a good part of your oral argument to the Supreme Court of South Carolina talking about Aaron Burr, sir? That's right. And not like from the milk commercial. We went Hamilton with that.
Great lawyers on his staff. He should listen to them.
I agree with
defer
that
to
part.
their judgment.
I agree with that part too. Listen to your lawyers.
Coincidentally, he has not looked into the attempted jury tampering of Becky Hill. We're going to talk about a civil suit in a minute, but clearly the statute says whoever tampers with a jury or attempts to tamper with a jury is guilty of a crime. Judge Toll's fact findings.
If Poot's going where I think he's going with this, Poot, you're going to make me agree with you. You're going to make me agree with you this morning. I agree. I think that the state was in a very tough spot between pursuing jury tampering against Becky Hill and pursuing their defense of the trial. I think it put them in a tough spot. I understand why they hired outside counsel or appointed a special prosecutor to go over that. I will note that I do not have all of the information. We do not have all of the information, but it is odd to me that criminal charges have not been pursued, though I understand the conundrum it puts everyone in, and it becomes very hard for the prosecution to prosecute Becky Hill for jury tampering on one hand and then argue that the trial shouldn't be turned over because she didn't tamper with a jury, or not that she didn't talk to the jury, but she didn't complete it because the jury was not persuaded. The standard for appeal is different than the standard to prosecute someone beyond a reasonable doubt. And if the jurors say that they weren't persuaded, I mean, maybe they could have gone after attempted. Can you even have an attempt in South Carolina, an attempted jury tampering? And the jurors are like, I mean, she talked to us, but we weren't persuaded by her. Then at least you could be consistent on your two arguments. She tried to tamper with the jury, but they weren't swayed. So it was not completed. And then you have your different standard for beyond a reasonable doubt than you have for the Supreme Court. I still think it puts them in a conundrum. But charge her. How long do they have, Julie asked, to bring charges against her? I believe that ship has sailed because of double jeopardy. We'll talk about that after this press conference. Don't let me forget. I'll make a note.
We're clear.
Sorry. That was me.
Becky Hill attempted. The Supreme Court
wrong.
Last week, Becky Hill attempted. So please, Alan, focus on your job and not the politics. Now, having gotten that out of my system, let me turn this over to Jim Griffin, who's going to talk about the lawsuit that was filed this morning, and then Phil Barber and he and I will answer questions. Jim?
Yeah, good morning. Today in United States District Court, federal court, the Charleston Division, we filed a
I love that the birds are just birding.
lawsuit on behalf of Richard Alexander Murdaugh Sr. versus Rebecca Hill. In this lawsuit, we file it under the Federal Civil Rights Statute, 42 United States Code 1983, to redress constitutional deprivation of rights. Those rights were Alex's right to a fair trial, a right that him be tried before an untampered, untainted jury with the South Carolina Supreme Court's.
The word he's looking for is impartial, but that's what the South Carolina Supreme Court said. You have the constitutional right to a fair trial. That includes an impartial jury. I agree. And the South Carolina Supreme Court said this jury's not impartial. This jury was tampered with. So I don't disagree. I don't disagree here.
Ruling, it has been adjudged as a matter of state law that she deprived Alec of his constitutional rights, deprived him of a right to a fair trial, and as a result, we've got to do it all over again, which nobody wants to do. The damages that we've alleged include the over $600,000 that was spent to try the first case and other compensatory damages. Now, let me be clear.
I'm waiting for the taxpayer, like a taxpayer coalition, to also sue her on behalf of the taxpayers. I'm waiting to see if that happens. I don't even know if that can happen. I'm real curious. But we will see. But over $600,000. Miss Casey Miller said deprived. Interesting word choice. The only reason I wanted to comment on the word deprived is because it echoes the law. So it is a choice of word because law. So that's why the deprivation of rights is what they are suing under. So that's why he's picking those words. The $600,000, I think, just goes to the defense. That's what Alec paid. So there's that. But yeah, that's why they're using that word.
Alec Murdaugh owes a lot of people a lot of money. None of this money that is recovered will go to him personally.
I am Heather Good.
And the purpose of this lawsuit is to hold Becky Hill accountable for what she did.
Yeah.
She has not been held account at all for her conduct. And two is to investigate exactly what she did, which we'll be able to do through the course of civil litigation. We have subpoena power. We can take
discovery. They then get to discovery. Brandy Cohen, you make an excellent point in the chat, Leonard. The $600K should go to Murdaugh's victims because that's how much he got exempted from paying them based on the costs of the case. Yeah, he still has a shit ton of restitution. So if he wins against Becky Hill, shouldn't that money just go to the restitution? I think there's a very, very strong argument that the money recovered should go to restitution because his lawyers got paid for the first trial. I think it's a very strong argument that it should go to restitution first because there are standing restitution orders. I think it should. Does that mean the lawyers are not going to fight to try to get it to go to them to pay for the second trial? No. Do I think it should go to the victims? Yes. Do I think Becky Hill has $600,000? I don't know. The books didn't sell that well, so maybe not.
depositions. And so we're going to be able to understand the entire scope of her conduct. She's yet to be thoroughly investigated by the state, and she's not been held accountable by the state. And that's what we hope to do. That's what we intend to do.
The state says, sorry, it sounded like somebody was like street sweeping next to them. The state says she was investigated. They disagree. I have questions.
And that's what we will do with this lawsuit. Thank you. Phil, what you got?
Oh,
I would just
and apparently there's also a runway at the top of Poot's office. Perfect.
amplify that and say that the jury process, the integrity of the jury process was violated by somebody sworn to uphold it. And that's why we're here today, and that cannot go unanswered, as Jim said.
Save
and
us,
that's what we're going
Barber.
to do with this lawsuit. Beyond that, we've alleged $600,000 in damages. That's a public number, by the way. There was a receivership. That money was allocated from a receivership for the defense. That was a waste because of what Becky Hill did, plus other damages alleged. And beyond that, we are going to find out exactly what happened. There will be depositions, there will be subpoenas, and she will be held to account for her actions.
Any questions? None? Okay. No?
Do you guys have
Notice
any
he
new
didn't
evidence
stop
to
walking
present?
away. Any questions? None? Okay. He doesn't turn around to start walking away. He doesn't turn around to start walking away at all.
Your case going forward.
Well, we have... Where'd you go, Phil?
I'm right here.
Okay. We have received a number of pieces of information post-trial. Some of them came just to us. Some of that came just to us. Some of that went to SWED, too. And we don't know what they did with it. Once the trial was over, we don't have the power to subpoena. We don't have the power to really investigate it all. All we did was, after the trial, was look into the jury misconduct. And we rode around Colleton County for a couple months through the swamp on the dirt roads to find these jurors and ask them questions.
We had to go mudding, y'all. My SUV is not prepared for actual mud. It's one of them city SUVs. Every time he talks about Colleton County, there's just, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Y'all let me know if we're on the same wavelength or if I'm just reading too much into it. But it feels to me every time he talks about Colleton County, he's like, there's bugs and the roads are dirt and we have to go out into the country. I wish I could get further into the country, sir, but then I have to be on satellite internet and I didn't want to do that. So every time he's just like, ugh. I think he's trying to be, I don't know, cute, but it comes across as dismissive. Because when he wants to be like, I'm just a simple country lawyer, he'll do that too. But it just, I think it's just that Poot is so ingrained as a politician that he can't unpolitician, and it rubs me the wrong way. Like it's different for me than the way lawyers can be sometimes hyperbolic. It's a very different way of speaking for me, but I just out in the mud. Little mud's good for you, Poot. It'll be fine. Go wash your tires. You're gonna be fine. But also, I wonder if this is part of why the defense would like to move the trial. That they would have a jury that Poot feels is more like them. More like these attorneys. That they might have a benefit of being in one of the cities. I also think that it's going to be hard to find a jury that's not heard of this case quite a bit. We'll see. Oh my God, I've never heard this phrase before and I love it too much. Sassy Southern Gal says he's got a pavement princess SUV. I have never heard that phrase before. I love it so much. You are going to hear me use that again. You are going to hear me use that again. That's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. I mean, also me sometimes, but I don't mind getting my car muddy, but also I never try to go, I'm just a simple country girl. No, I'm a beach girl who loves living in the country and occasionally has no idea what it is because I grew up at the beach. How is EDB not heard of Pavement Princess? Because I grew up at the beach and we all knew we weren't allowed to drive on the beach. So getting sand on your tires wasn't really as much of a thing, but I love it.
Questions.
Also, this 1010 tracks. Like it's funny because there are a lot of fairly large Middle Tennessee trucks and you can tell which ones are like actually working trucks and which ones are just like, I need to get over the curb so I can park in not a parking spot. There's a lot of that too.
But once a judge is appointed, and I think we got an order on Friday that the Chief Justice has said, once the remitter is issued, which means right now the Supreme Court has the case, they got to remit it to a trial court, and he'll do that, we think, in the next couple of weeks. So at that point, then we...
How does it take a couple of weeks for the remitter? I mean, I don't know. Appellate work is not my specialty, but that's an answer to a question I really wanted to hear. So the remitter is when the court actually sends it back to another court and gives it to another judge and is like, here you go. Take this.
Supreme Court has the case. They got to remit it to a trial court, and he'll do that, we think, in the next couple of weeks. So at that point, then we will have subpoena power. Then we will have the ability to investigate.
With a new murder trial, how hard do you think it is going to be to find impartial jurors?
Well, let me say.
And the media coming in with the next question. How do you think it's going to be? How hard will it be? Just in case any of you couldn't hear the media, how hard will it be to find impartial jurors?
Say this to you. This has gotten extraordinary notoriety, unlike most other cases I've ever tried. But in its time, a case I prosecuted 40 years ago, Pee Wee Gaskins, Monk was there. Pee Wee Gaskins, we had to go through 4.
He was pointing at another member of the media. Because Poot. Right.
400 jurors to get 14. It's important that we have what we want is individual voir dire. That means we individually question the jurors, which is not usually allowed in anything but a death penalty case.
Interesting.
So we think we can get them. Now, can we get it in Colleton County? That's debatable.
I think that's going to be tough.
And I think the state has the same interest, should have the same interest.
So Raven in the chat said, can they end up going to another state? No, it has to be within South Carolina. They can go to other parts of the state, but no, it has to be within South Carolina.
We have in finding 12 or 14 with alternates, impartial, fair jurors. The state should want an unsullied,
I agree with that. They should.
Uninfluenced jury as much as we do.
And have you talked to Alec recently? How does he feel about the overturn?
Jim talked to him this morning.
Yeah, we've talked to Alec a lot. lately about many topics, including retrial and what that might look like. But to your specific question,
They would have to have talked to him recently. They decided to file a new whole ass lawsuit. They have to talk to him. Because again, how are they getting paid? Maybe by Becky. But how are they getting paid?
frankly, when we reported back to him after our argument in the South Carolina Supreme Court, we told him it went as well as we could have hoped, and that we were very optimistic that we would get a favorable result.
I think that was
And he
reasonable
appreciated
to
our
be
assessment, but
very optimistic on that.
he was incredulous. His experience has been, since he has been on the back end of civil lawsuits and criminal indictments, that he's lost every significant legal ruling along the way, and that occurred almost daily during the trial. And when he got the order, when I spoke with him, he had already read the opinion of the Supreme Court, and he says, "I'm reading it, I see it, it says reverse, but I still have a hard time believing it. It's really just sinking in." But he was very grateful, very thankful, and he thanked all of us here that are on this side of the podium,
and told you that he could share your words with the media, right? I'm sure he would have told you could share that with the media, because this is Emily. How are they just talking about what their client said to them? It would have had to have been approved by the client, because generally you do not hear attorneys saying, "Oh, and when my client found out this, they said this." It would have to be approved. Then again, maybe that's just how they do things. They're like, it's fine. I doubt it, but
And he got somewhat emotional. He was so, and I don't think he'll mind for me telling you this. I mean, he has always said,
keep reading, Emily. It'll be fine. We're homies. It's fine. What's he gonna do? Get another lawyer? Nah, it's fine.
and he told me very early that he deserves to be in jail, prison, for the financial crimes that he committed. But he says, being in jail for something you didn't do is a hard thing to swallow, even though I'm here doing time for what I did do. But then he said, what I was convicted of is so reprehensible and something that is so heinous, and to be wrongfully convicted of that is almost unbearable, he says. And so he is very thankful that he is no longer a convicted murderer of his wife and son, and he
for now,
and he's appreciative to the court
for now
for applying the rule of law, regardless of outcome. They did their job, and we're all very appreciative of that. The rule of law won out last week.
I don't disagree with that either. I don't disagree with that. I think that given what Becky Hill did, this was the only just and fair result. And it is a lot easier to look at the right result with a defendant who you are looking at being wrongly convicted. It is harder when you look at a defendant, and if you look at that defendant and go, nah, I got opinions, it becomes harder to root for them to get a new trial. So in this, I am not rooting for Alec Murdaugh. But then again, I could never sit on this jury. The things he did to his clients is so beyond reprehensible, and that's before we even get to the allegations and charges of murdering his wife and son. However, the rule of law has to work for the most distasteful defendants for it to work for any defendants. And that is what happened. And it is the right result, though it is a frustrating result, because I'm a big fan of justice. And that is the proper thing to do. It cannot be that an elected official can put their hands on the scale of justice and push. And she should be prosecuted for it. I don't think she can be at this point, and that pisses me off because I don't think that's just. And I think Becky Hill being prosecuted would have been a pretty stern warning. Her not being prosecuted frustrates me deeply. Yeah.
Buster, and how does he feel about what happened last week?
So yeah, thanks for asking that question.
The media just asked, have you talked to Buster? And what does he think? Ask Buster.
And I want to say this. Buster Murdaugh is, hopefully we can all agree, is entitled to his privacy.
I agree with that.
That kid has been through. I
need to go look. He had, I don't know if they settled or not. He had a couple defamation lawsuits ongoing. I haven't checked back in on those.
So much. And that's all he wants is his privacy. And so we're not going to answer questions about Buster other than to say, and I say it with 100% confidence, that Buster supports his dad, Alec.
With the civil suit, are you hoping to get your hands on the SLED investigation into the jury tampering allegations by Becky Hill? Sure.
Now, we were given some information through the discovery during the motion for new trial stage. Is that all they've done? We don't know. But if that is all they've done, that really wasn't much of an investigation. And we really don't think they've done much of an investigation.
Oh, boy.
But we certainly plan to.
And let me say this. There's also was a Freedom of Information Act served on SLED to get additional information. We've seen that too. Does it make sense to have the agency who has an inherent conflict, they want the conviction sustained, investigating whether it was valid
I agree with
or not?
that.
I mean, it just seems ridiculous.
I agree with that. I agree with bringing in a completely outside investigation. I agree with Poot on that too. Yeah, for sure. Even if inside SLED they feel like, oh, it's fine. It's the appearance of impropriety. Maybe we've spent too much time in Massachusetts, but SLED's prosecuting Alec Murdaugh for murder. SLED investigating whether there was jury tampering or not doesn't sit right with me either. Fair question.
And again, I think the Attorney General's fault is not asking for some independent. He could have gotten a sheriff's department to it. Leon Lott folks or the sheriff up in Greenville have a very sophisticated sheriff's department. Charleston also. Use them. But SLED is invested in affirming the conviction. They don't want to find any fault. I mean, that's just human nature. So we think there's going to be plenty of things that weren't looked into, and we want to look into those. And the question is, and Jim and Phil and I have been talking about this.
It's making sense.
Did she do it alone? Did she have somebody help her with this? And if
I think she did, but I think they're also being prosecuted. And I don't necessarily think it was before the jury. I think it was afterwards, but we'll talk about that later.
You were sitting in the judge's chambers like we were when she brought in information on the jury you would call the egg lady. We call Myra Crosby.
What, it's the motorcycle that got all y'all's attention? It wasn't the planes landing on your head. It's the motorcycle that everybody just went, wait, what?
And listen to what she had to say. One time it was totally made up about some Facebook page. The second time, inexplicably a anonymous email came to the judge. We weren't told about it. It was investigated by the Attorney General's office and SLED without us being involved. No guardrails on that. But I mean, and
a lot of you are asking about the egg lady juror's name. She's given interviews. So yes, he can say her name. She's given interviews. She wrote a book. So the egg lady juror's name is known. She wrote a book about this. So remember, she did not deliberate, but she has held herself out as the egg lady juror. and with her name. So there is that. I'm not advertising said book. I have not read said book, but I'm just saying, no, he's not doxing a juror.
Call us naive, because we were. We didn't press that, and I look back on it. We should have, with 20/20 hindsight, we maybe should have taken a little more aggressive, but we still couldn't have peeled that onion back then. But
And you know what? I will find fault in lawyers when there is fault needed. However, on this, Poot's making me agree with him a lot today. On this, I don't know if a lot of lawyers, even most in Poot's shoes, would have questioned what was happening in chambers more than they did. Because the idea that the clerk was manufacturing something to get a juror off of the jury is so outside of what is legal, ethical, proper, known, has happened, is wild. And I don't think many would assume that, like, oh, there must be something more here. It's just so beyond belief that they did press about how, because we saw some of those sidebars in all of the motion work, they did press on how this information came up, but they didn't press so much. But I thought they pressed reasonably, given the circumstances. And I don't fault them for that. The defense was given the opportunity to question the juror. They talked in chambers and then said that they didn't need to go any further with it because they don't know. Again, hindsight. I think they made the right decision at the time with the information they had. And they are an incredibly experienced defense team. Poot's not going to leave stones unturned, you know? So I don't fault them for that.
we will now.
Hey, Dick, question about the retrial. Some have suggested that it may have been a mistake to put Alec on the stand. Any thought to whether you're going to put him on the stand in the retrial?
That's Alec's
Two
choice.
things. One, the client makes that decision. Two, that'll be a game day call. So you'll know when we know.
When will any retrial take place?
I would suspect within a year of now, but not by the end of the year. No, hell no.
And why is that? Why can't you go right?
Alec Murdaugh's defense official statement: will retrial happen by the end of 2026? No. Hell no. Right.
Well, I'll give you a couple of simple examples. One, we assume the same witnesses will testify in the retrial as the trial. We have a, 8,000 page transcript. We've got to break out each witness. We've got to read it, whoever's going to handle that person, outline it, and they can be used to impeach them.
You just described preparing for a trial. Huzzah. We have to look at each witness. Yeah, you just described preparing for a trial that's a retrial. Yep.
So
You guys!
this is like a civil case where you've taken
We
a
have to read
deposition.
so much.
Unlike any other criminal case you'll ever defend.
This trial has an audible version that you can listen to at 1.5 speed, though. Most trials don't have an audible version. This one has an audible version. You can just go watch it back, which is a huge benefit in a retrial, to be able to go watch it back.
Or prosecute. So that takes time. We've got to go back and see if they've given us all the discovery. There's some inference that we didn't get everything from the prosecution. We've got to go back and scrub that real hard. We've got to hire experts. They've got to look at all the information, new experts, and then give us an opinion.
Do you have enough money to hire new experts?
Jim, why don't you explain financially how this works? He's got a much better explanation for this than I do. Go ahead.
I mean, there is no new money, no found.
Every single time they get to the money, Poot's like, yeah, Jim, how we getting paid? How we getting paid, buddy? You explain the money. It's like my husband looking at the credit card and then looking at me and being like, "Hey, girl, what's that?" In my defense, it was cute. What's that? It was necessary. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Emily, what? Leave my Tractor Supply purchases alone. We needed more plants. Because if we cover the ground more efficiently, then we're not going to have to weed it as much. And I really don't want to weed. So actually, it just saves us time and effort and money. It's really quite practical.
Money, and I've said previously, we got paid to do a job, and you do criminal defense work. I mean, one way you do, you charge by the job. Sometimes you come out ahead, and sometimes you come out behind. But, right now...
I mean, unless you're your client always came out ahead when working for clients, didn't he? Yeah, sorry, I couldn't help it. Great question. Sassy Rebel in the chat said, isn't the state paying them? No, not at this point. But they will be. 714 Mila said, Tractor Supply is so underrated. In my defense, I have not brought home chickens even once. So I feel like the fact that I have not brought home chickens all of the time means that I've exercised restraint and that there should be no complaints about the fact that I want to start like a wildflower meadow because I have adult decision-making capabilities and seeds. We can make a meadow if we want to. But I don't want to get in trouble with my HOA at this point. Though, at some point, we'll have to figure out how to modify the rules so there can be chickens. Fights for another day. I don't think any of my neighbors watch my streams. It'll be fine.
We're in the hole, but we got paid to do a job, and we're going to see it all the way through.
You're saying the job isn't finished yet.
Job is not finished yet, and we're not walking away from it. So we're going to see it through. That's where we are.
Is there any chance a retrial could happen in Richland County instead of Collison?
One of the things that we're looking at is a motion to transfer venue to a different county. It would have to be, if that takes place and is transferred, it'd have to be in a county that has a very similar demographics as Colleton County. So that would probably exclude Richland County, Charleston County, which I know all of y'all want to go to Charleston.
But Charleston is contiguous to Colleton, and one of the factors to be considered. I'm just saying.
Charleston.
I do think it's fair that they consider a change of venue. I think we're going to see a lot of fighting over a change of venue. I guess the only question is, are we going to see the same expert that we've seen in the Richens case and the Koberger case if we see a change of venue? But I think we will see a change of venue motion for sure. So we will be there. Also, to some of your points, we do have giant birds in our yard. They're not egg laying, but we do have, well, they are egg laying. Those eggs just hatch, but we do have Turkey Tom and the ladies. There are 3 ladies and a very large turkey. So we do, they do spend quite a lot of time in our yard. So it feels like we have large chickens. They're quite loud, but they respond. If you gobble at them, they gobble back. It's hilarious. I love them.
So, it's not our pick, but that'll be looked at very closely for sure.
Jim, can we talk about new evidence? I know last week you mentioned DNA evidence under Maggie's fingernails, essentially
right,
connected to a male.
They are asking about DNA evidence. We heard about this in the trial.
Can we go into that a little bit more and how that will play a factor in this retrial?
Well, we pointed out during the last trial that they did find a unknown male DNA who's not related to any Murdaugh or any of Maggie's family under her fingernail. That was not really followed up on.
It came up in trial and then nothing happened with it.
Before the last trial. We don't have possession of that DNA, so we can't do anything with it.
That's true.
We can perhaps, with a new case, back to square one, go and seek an order from the court to compel them to send it off to CODIS. CODIS is the national DNA database.
If they haven't done so, they should follow up on it. But we will see. Also, I would be interested to see if the state gives them money for their own experts on that. But that came up very briefly at trial and then just kind of. However, I believe, was she having her nails done earlier in the day? There was some other factors surrounding that because this is also a shooting case.
So, I mean, if we were in charge and we had the facilities, the forensic lab, they had SLED, and we had search warrant abilities, we would have done things a lot differently and more timely. A lot of that opportunity is lost, and so that's unfortunate.
If the DNA, if the DNA is preserved, I don't think there's an opportunity lost. If there's a profile, the opportunity is not lost.
Sent to CODIS, do you believe this go around?
Well, it'll be Chief Justice Kittredge issued an order last week saying he's going to appoint a new judge once the remitter goes down. And that'll be one of the things that we will present to a new judge asking for that relief. Whether he or she will do it remains to be seen.
Jim, you said the lawsuit is about holding Becky Hill accountable and also investigating what you say the state didn't do a good enough job of investigating her. What do you hope that investigation could yield?
The truth.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, just, we don't have a result in mind, but we have a lot of questions that we would like answered. Was she a lone wolf? Was she doing it just for the, siren of celebrity, which she definitely was? And then I'll tell you, this removal of the egg lady juror is very suspicious, and that really wasn't a part.
However, there's not much they can do about that now. The trial's been overturned. They can run down the stuff that went on with the egg lady juror in their civil suit, but it doesn't change the result here because the result is new trial. Jesse Davin, I'm sure many of you were on Ryan Hall's stream yesterday with the weather. Hope everybody in St. Louis is doing well. I know there was a lot of weather yesterday. We've got a lot of weather coming through here this week as well, which is really happy for graduation week. So we're going to keep everything, we're going to keep an eye on everything. But yes, we will also be keeping an eye on Ryan Hall's streams. You know that I will be. And I actually got to have, because he was streaming so long yesterday that he was kind of my body doubling as I was trying to get stuff done around the house, which was very helpful.
Part of the case. We do make it a part of our complaint. We point out all of the inconsistencies of what she said, reporting to Judge Newman that the egg lady, Ms. Crosby's ex-husband, had posted something on Facebook, which we now know was a bald-faced lie, or someone lied to her. I mean,
it wasn't me.
It makes no sense. And if you have questions, and I would encourage all of you to follow up with Joe McCullough, who represents Myra Crosby, who is investigating this as strenuously as we intend to do so, and he's been working on it for quite some time. I mean, the way she was targeted, it just
seems weird.
It's very curious, and we hope to get to the bottom of that.
Jim,
Is there any possibility?
Look, you've now gone very far out of your way to not say I have questions, Jim. I understand, but Jim's just saying I have questions. Here's the thing that's hard for this defense team is they know they're never going to be EDB favorites because Barbara's my favorite on this defense team. Emily, we have a teacher's favorite. Look, we have a streamer's favorite. Barber was great in first trial. I appreciated his arguments to the court. So yeah, Jim's going a long way out of his way to not say I have questions. Fair enough. Fair enough, Jim.
Taking plea deal for a lesser charge.
Say again?
Is there any possibility of taking...
Egg Lady Juror denies that she was talking to her tenants about the case. The tenants say she was talking to the tenants about the case. I think their bigger question is, how did that come to the court's attention? And was that really all from a anonymous email like, hey, this juror was talking to us? Or not?
A plea deal for a lesser charge?
No plea deal. No, never will plead guilty. Off the table. We want a trial. Yeah, they can dismiss it.
Yeah,
That's that answer. Is there a possibility of a plea in this case? You've got the answer. You've got the answer. No possibility of a plea. We want trial or don't retry it. Those are your options. No sleep till Brooklyn. That's it. No plea ever.
dismiss these charges. You know,
they could choose not to retry it. That's true.
He'll never enter into a plea which required some admission that he did something he didn't do, and that's murdering his wife and son. I mean, that's not going to happen.
Who do you think did kill Maggie and Paul?
Poot's so interesting in the way that he reacts sometimes in a split second. The media's question is, who do you think did kill Maggie and Paul? And Poot starts laughing.
I mean, that's not going to happen.
Who do you think did kill Maggie and Paul?
We wish we knew. We think we could have found out if we were.
There are times that Poot gives away more than he thinks he does because he thinks he's clever. But there are times when Poot gives away more than he thinks he does. And, well, there's that.
Had the tools available. I mean, that opportunity was lost when they failed to follow the tire tracks in the grass leading away from the murders of Maggie and Paul. That opportunity was lost when they failed to maintain the integrity of the GPS data on Maggie's phone. Instead, it was at SLED downloading GPS coordinates at SLED that ultimately overwrote where her phone was and when it was on the night of the murders. And when they finally get into Maggie's phone and able to access the GPS data, you know where it said that phone had been last? Broad River Road, SLED Lab. I mean, that is outrageous that was allowed to happen.
I don't disagree with Jim on this. I think Jim has dialed in his answer. It's getting better. Each time he answers this question, his answer's getting better because it went from we're doing an investigation, we're going to find it, to the opportunity's been lost to figure it out. The answer's getting better for sure. But yeah, it's also outrageous that SLED didn't at least put the phone in airplane mode or in a Faraday bag. Yeah, it is. Truly, truly, truly outrageous. I agree. There's other things in here, though, that aren't going to work. But yeah, there's stuff in this investigation that was not done well. And that was before we got to Massachusetts. Massachusetts, like, hold my beer.
So, you know, John, we've gotten a lot of information. People are out there working on behalf of Alec for free, kind of like we are, and they've unearthed some really interesting stuff. And they've turned a significant amount over that to SLED. We'll be curious to see if SLED has done anything with it or will do anything with it.
If any of that investigation now goes back to the house or to the property, or is that a done deal?
There's nothing that I'm aware of that's of evidentiary value on the property.
Let me just jump in and say that the actual scene has been, destroyed, right? It's been torn down. The property.
Excuse me, Barber. This ain't a scene. It's a goddamn arms race. That's new news that it has been torn down. I don't know if the entire home of Moselle has been torn down or just the outbuildings where this happened. Given this crime scene, I can understand wanting to just tear down the outbuildings. I think that's probably the right call.
It's of evidentiary value on the property.
Let me just jump in and say that the actual scene has been destroyed, right? It's been torn down, the property's been sold, the kennels, all of that are gone. So that's no longer in existence.
But our experts, in preparing for the first trial, did all kinds of forensic tests.
Yeah, they've got all those 3D scans.
On the crime scene. A number of, and we put into evidence that if somebody could be in the house and shots fired down at the dog kennel, never hear them. I mean, we proved that without any contradiction whatsoever. So the story that he was up at the house and they go, he had to have heard the shotgun and an AR. Not. We had an expert run test. Can't do that anymore. So the uncontradicted evidence is going to be, if he was in the house, he wouldn't have heard the shots. So, I mean, it's those kinds of things. And we've got measurements, I mean, very, very, very specific measurements on where everything was, which, by the way, SLED did not do. The night of the murders, as they processed, it may not be SLED, maybe...
Which SLED did not do. Why would SLED try to see if you could hear gunshots from the house when they were trying to figure out what was happening? And let's keep in mind, Alec Murdaugh's story was always, I got home and saw that this had happened. So there was no indication early in this investigation that Alec was in the house when this happened. So why would they measure if you could hear it from the house or not? That evolved later.
Local law enforcement. They didn't dust for fingerprints in the feed, not dust, they don't do that anymore, but they did not process the feed room for fingerprints. They didn't look for DNA. Is that our hair? Let's pick it up and get it tested. There was a bloody footprint right next to Paul's body. It was a Carleton County Sheriff's deputy's foot. I mean, I'm not a big CSI fan, but this looks to me like they violated every basic rule, and we had a witness testify to that. So they got a lot of explaining to do.
What do you think the odds are of Alex getting an acquittal in the retrial?
They
John
think it's
Monk,
good.
are playing those internet betting sites too much. I have no idea.
What is this interaction that's happening right now? What are the chances of getting an acquittal? Shit, is this on Polymarket? God, I have so many thoughts about where this can all go wrong if there's online betting in cases before even a jury is picked. There is so much that can go bad with that. Can you imagine? It's like the guy who bet on the Super Bowl that there would be a streaker at the Super Bowl, and then he was the streaker at the Super Bowl and won 10x the amount that he was fined for being a streaker at the Super Bowl. Oh, I really hope that there's not a betting market on this. I wouldn't be surprised if there is, but when you have a betting market on something that humans can influence, ooh, I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all. That can lead to so many problems. I'm not going to get into it today. I don't have time. We have to, Emily, focus. Focus.
What do you think the odds are of Alex getting an acquittal in the retrial?
You, John Monk, are playing those internet betting sites too much. I have no idea what his chances are.
I'm not playing them at all.
Well, you ought to try.
What do you think the odds are?
We have no idea. I mean, we don't predict football, basketball, or trials.
Just following up on what Dick said about the failures.
Con's dog asked, why would it be a problem? If there is a betting market on something that humans can influence, that is unregulated and largely unknown to the courts and lawyers, because I think a lot of courts and lawyers don't even know that this exists. Not that sports can't be influenced. We still haven't covered all of the recent scandals about that. Not that sports can't be influenced. Obviously, we know that it can be. But when there is a financial or potential financial incentive, when humans can bet on a thing that they can control the outcome on, and that thing is like a jury trial where you then can't ask about what's going on in the jury, there is room for fuckery. There is room for fuckery. And I am concerned. And most of that type of betting, as Break-In Windflower says, are anonymous. I have concerns. I have concerns because it can financially incentivize jury verdicts in a different way than like writing a book after a verdict. I'm going to just stop there. Consadog, you're welcome. I could rant on this for quite a while, but I don't want to give anyone ideas. But B, I can't be the only one that's thought of this. And I worry, because if there is a financial incentive to being on a jury, then what people will do to get on a jury starts to shift. And yes, jurors have written books. Some jurisdictions allow it, some don't. But yeah, there is online betting on things, on all kinds of things that are outside of sports that are not well regulated. And when that's anonymous, I worry. Rena, I agree with you. Rena said, not unlike trading on the stock market when you make the laws. I agree with you. It's insider trading and illegal unless you're an elected official. I could rant about that for 100 years. I'm going to stop myself. I think it's fuckery. And I hate it. I hate it so much. Okay. Deep breaths, Emily. Deep breaths. We're not going to change the world today. But you know what? The ripple effect of the law nerds will. I sincerely and truly believe that the ripple effects of the law nerds will, because calling out fuckery is step one to changing the fuckery. And I am nervous. I am nervous that this is something that's going to happen. Either way, going forward, I also, it really concerns me that Poot is throwing this out here in a press conference. Emily, you said you weren't going to talk about this. I'm in too deep. I've gone full sum 41, y'all. I'm sorry. It worries me that Poot's throwing this out here in a press conference, because then there's conversation about it. And could that lead people to thinking about it that wouldn't have otherwise? It concerns me the casual way that it's just thrown out there to a reporter that he clearly knows by full name, saying, you're on one of those sites. Look, I'm just trying to be out here seeding some beautiful Sunny Meadow wildflowers so I can go live my own little Twilight Twinkly in the flowers dream probably next summer. But when we are seeding fuckery, I'm concerned. I'm concerned. Why throw that out there? Right? Why start sowing problems? Maybe so you can harvest them later. Too cynical? Maybe.
During the trial, you'll remember SLED explained how they do murder investigations, and they do, they draw an imaginary circle, and then the imaginary circle that they drew here, Alec was in the middle of it. And he was in the middle of it from the night of the murders. And they knew that Alec left Moselle and went to his mother's house at Almeda, and then came back to Moselle and found his wife and son murdered brutally. And do you think for 1 minute that they should have gone to Almeda, to see if there's anything of evidentiary value? Were there murder weapons at Almeda, which they want to intimate, during the trial? Oh, he parked over here, so he must have gotten rid of the guns over there. I mean, they had the opportunity to exclude Alec from that circle, but they didn't do it because they just failed so miserably in what their jobs were.
Let me say one other thing that brings to mind. As most of y'all know, I was a prosecutor for 12 years, and this is 40 years ago. If a body was found and they wanted to determine time of death,
the coroner would just take their hands and just, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Coroner or a medical examiner would take an anal thermometer and get a core body temperature, then take a thermometer and get the ambient temperature. And in this case, alleged an hour and a half prior they'd been killed. Sort of.
No.
The coroner showed up.
Damn it.
He did something that just amazed me. He took
fucking coroner armpits. We're back to the coroner armpits. I still can't believe this is real. If you didn't watch the first trial, Poot is being no cap dead ass about this. This is real. He is not making this up. I am still terrified. Also, they would just use a liver thermometer now, but this is real.
Hour and a half prior they'd been killed, sort of. The coroner showed up and he did something that just amazed me. He took his hand and he stuck it under Paul's armpit, and then that same hand took it under stuck it under Maggie's armpit, and he could calculate the time of death based on that. I mean, that's what we're dealing with.
Yep. They seem a bit cold. Yep. Rebecca, yep. Liver temp, yep. I think Poot just wanted to say anal thermometer, but yep. For those of you that did not watch this trial, that's real. When this testimony came out on the stand, I didn't fall out of my chair, but emotionally I did. Yep. Just, which is why we call the coroner armpits, because the coroner testified that they were checking for body temperature, among other things. It was wild. I can't believe it's coming up again in the press conference. But here we are, back to coroner armpits.
With here, folks, stuck his hand under the armpit? Really?
Yeah, really.
And yet, then they said, "Oh, well, we know." But when Maggie stopped using
Poot, you actually pointed an AR at prosecutor's table and said, "Tempting." So I mean, let's be fair on everyone doing their jobs.
Her phone, and Paul stopped using his phone. That's the time of death. They ignore the fact that cell phone service down there was spotty at best. A number of people testified there was no cell phone service. So simply because they weren't using their phone doesn't mean they were dead.
Not having cell phone service doesn't mean you're not using their phone. Who's ever heard of using a phone if there's no cell phone service?
Dead. I mean, this thing has more holes in it than Swiss cheese.
In your opinion, what ultimately got Alex convicted?
The media is asking what ultimately got Alex convicted. Let's see if we can see the future. They're going to blame Courthouse Becky, right? Because at this point, your best answer is to be like, jury tampering. Your best answer at this point is to just go with the jury tampering. Susie, no. Why did they not use liver temp? Because armpits. I don't remember if there was a actual explanation. Dratini, Dreppy, A. Love the Pokemon of all of it. Which is worse, blood collection and solo cups or checking time of death via armpit? I mean, there are other factors that could go to time of death. Not every case has time of death. I'm trying to think of which one has the worst impact. Not having blood properly collected in stores means you could lose evidence that you cannot get in any other way. There are other things that can help you calculate approximate time of death. So I found armpit coroner more shocking in trial. I think blood collection in solo cups is more damaging to a case. But I found the armpit coroner shit shocking as well.
I think 2.5 weeks of that of widows and orphans and mentally disabled kids testifying, not that he stole their money, but how just maliciously he stole the money, how he lied to them. When they finished with that, They're not going to believe forensic evidence. They're not going to believe him. They're not going to believe anything because he was so vilified.
I'm
And when he
surprised.
testified,
I'm really surprised that they didn't just punt to the jury was tampered with. I'm truly surprised on that. The financial crimes. It was the financial crimes.
the jury was programmed not to believe him
And
by
there we
the
go.
clerk of court.
Right. Jim
So,
sweeping in.
you know, no matter what he said, I mean, he got on the stand to answer, you know, questions about where he was and what he did that night. And we know now that, as a Supreme Court accurately described, she sought to undermine his credibility before he even testified. And understand, she's the second highest ranked court official in the trial. And she has closest contact with the jury, develops close relationships with them over 6 weeks. And, you know,
That's
she
the answer
is
I expected.
the one that
Period.
they see more. You know, she's the elected official. She summoned them all in. Her name's on the summons. Her name's on the check that they get.
Good answer,
payment
Jim.
every week for serving on the jury. I mean, and this person is back there in the jury room telling them in so many words, don't believe Alec when he testifies. Don't believe the defense. Don't
And the thing that's so wild is they probably would have come to that conclusion on their own if they had just watched him testify.
let them confuse you. All of that happened at the end of the trial right before we put up our case. So that is one reason he got convicted, I promise you.
You mentioned new evidence. If you already addressed this, I apologize, but you mentioned new evidence that you're going to bring out. You mentioned DNA found under Maggie's fingernails, male DNA.
They're talking about, or they're asking again about the new evidence. We'll see what he says.
Is there other new evidence?
Well, let me say this. If there is, we tell you, you're gonna, I know you're not doing this intentionally, but you'll be telling them. So I don't think we tell you. How about that?
Fair enough.
Maybe
What in the poot is Putin? What is Poot doing? Poot? What are you doing with that answer? Maybe we just don't tell you. How about we know the state's watching? What was that? Poot? You like some of these reporters better than others, don't you?
Well, let me say this. If there is, we tell you, you're gonna, I know you're not doing this intentionally, but you'll be telling them. So I don't think we tell you.
It's a fucking press conference. They're asking you questions. It's a public press conference. You held a press conference. They didn't just show up with whatever the fuck the microphone array thing is called and stick it on the sidewalk in front of your office, and everybody was magically there at the exact same time with all their little microphones with their flags on them out in front of your fucking face by accident. You called a press conference, and then you're like, well, if I answer that, it's going to be telling them. Poot! What? Stop it.
You. How about that?
Fair enough.
Maybe not unintentional, but never mind. Anything else?
Is there tea? I might hear a kettle starting to boil. There might be tea. There might be tea. Hold on. Wait till the end of that question. We're going to back up. There might be tea.
New evidence?
Didn't call this reporter by name. No, like, demeanor totally changed.
You mentioned DNA found under Maggie's fingernails, male DNA. Is there other new evidence?
Oh, I got to go back to the beginning of the question. Because other reporters he's called on differently. All right, if you're listening in the background, come back. Come on back. If you're listening in the background, come on back. As this reporter starts answering or asking this question, Poot's demeanor totally shifts. And then the answer is a totally different vibe than the other answers. And at the end of it, he's just like, meh.
So that is one reason he got convicted, I promise you.
You mentioned new evidence. If you already addressed this, I apologize, but you mentioned new evidence that you're going to bring out. You mentioned DNA found under Maggie's fingernails, male DNA. Is there other new evidence?
Well, let me say this. If there is, we tell you, you're gonna, I know you're not doing this intentionally, but you'll be telling them. So I don't think we tell you. How about that?
Fair enough.
Maybe not unintentional, but never mind. Anything else?
And then he cuts himself off. Maybe not unintentional. Ooh, whichever outlet that is. What's the beef? What were you doing your job without like glazing poot? Like, I want to know where's the beef? Because it's either he doesn't like that reporter or he doesn't like that outlet or both. But man, there's beef.
Do you think that Becky's done this with other trials before down in Colleton County?
Well, you don't know, do you? That's why this lawsuit is so important, because it's going to allow us to peel the onion on her and what she's done on this case with the other people involved. Was she a lone wolf? Has she done it on other cases? But certainly, it was a despicable act, and the Supreme Court found it to be such. Anything else? Thank you very much for coming today.
I have expected him to say anything else, but not from you. And look at that last reporter. But that was interesting. But it's clear. I mean, and this is not specifically to Dick Harpootlian or these attorneys or any attorneys. I think there is potentially a difference here because Dick Harpootlian had such a long political career in addition to his legal career. So there could be, a lot of layers to that, well, I'm definitely going to be unaware of, but there could be a lot more layers to that go beyond this case. But it was just a stark shift. And I imagine Poop plays nicer with some than others. But then again, we all have our favorites, don't we? So I'm curious what the behind the scenes there is, and if it's from the legal side, the political side, or what have you. But Poot just being like, well, if we tell you, then you'll tell them. I mean, unintentionally. Well, maybe not unintentionally. Do you mean that a reporter is going to go and then ask the prosecution, hey, the defense said this, this, and that. Do you have comment? I'm so curious. But anyway, what we heard at the press conference is a mix between we are retrying this case. That was not mixed at all. We are retrying this case. Hell no, no plea deal ever. And we are going to pursue other things in the trial. They talked just a very little bit about their civil lawsuit against Becky Hill and talked a lot about A, we are looking for $600,000, maybe more. B, we want more information about what happened here. And in the areas where I agreed with Dick Harpootlian, he was talking to the press about why is SLED, the agency that's investigating and going to trial with Alec Murdaugh for murder, why is that agency also investigating the jury tampering? Should another agency have been brought in to handle that investigation after the trial was over? Of course, SLED's going to be involved. They were in the courthouse, but also that raises another question for me. Could there be members of SLED that are also witnesses if they were in the courthouse or around the courthouse or helping jurors be transported? Could you end up with a potential conflict there, or at least an appearance of a conflict? And I agree with Poot on that. Why not? If you're bringing in an outside prosecutor, why not bring in an outside agency as well and have them look into it when it is a county official? I'm sure there are other agencies in South Carolina that have some version of a public integrity division or a division that investigates public officials. Just bring them in. I agree with him on that. He also criticized how little information they've gotten about the investigation into Courthouse Becky and the fact that Courthouse Becky has not been prosecuted for the jury tampering. just the perjury and the other dereliction of office and malfeasance in public office. As I said during the press conference, I would circle back to a couple questions. We're going to look at the lawsuit fairly quickly, but I'm going to answer a couple questions. One, can Courthouse Becky still be prosecuted for jury tampering? I don't think so. And here's why. I would be happy to be proven wrong. I would be very happy to be proven wrong. I personally think it's like my opinion. Hold on. That's my opinion. I have opinions on this case. Sometimes we're too early in the process for EDB opinions. We're not too early in the process for EDB opinions on this one. I think she should be prosecuted. I think she should spend some time in custody for what she did. That's my opinion. That's where I'm at on that. Open to discussion on why or why not. But I think that when they brought in another prosecutor, if that prosecutor evaluated the case, which they did, and decided that they cannot charge, we are going to end up in a double jeopardy situation. They have to charge the things that they know of at the time. It had to be dealt with when they dealt with the perjury. They chose not to, and I think that ship has sailed after her plea. I do not think you can unwind the double jeopardy on that. They had the opportunity. They had all of the information. I don't think they can now. If something new comes forward, I still don't think they can. Maybe if something changes, but I think it would be very difficult for them to go back and do that. And I think double jeopardy would be a hindrance here. And I do not like that answer. But I think that is the legally correct position. I would love to be disabused of that decision. I would love to be proven wrong on that. But I think you end up with a pretty difficult double jeopardy situation because they knew, they investigated, and they chose not to prosecute it. And at her plea hearing, there was quite a lot, and we'll link that down below. There was quite a lot of conversation about why they did not go and prosecute her. Diana, this is a great question. Diana said, what if she messed with other cases? If it came up and they found other cases that they did not know about at the time, then it opens a possibility, if it's not outside the statute of limitations, which it may well be now that we're in 2026. So any other trial, because we're already 3 years out of the Murdaugh trial, I think you might end up with a real statute of limitations issue. Let's see if I can find anything real quickly, which I might not be able to because I didn't grab it beforehand. But I don't know if I can grab their code section real quick and see what the statute of limitations is. I found their code section, and the felony is fine of up to $10,000 and 10 years in prison, up to a maximum of 10 years in prison. But what is the statute of limitation on felonies in South Carolina? Let me check. This is a quick check of their code sections. Just a quick check of their code sections. Again, I think we're probably looking at 3 years. Though it seems that South Carolina statute of limitations. There is no statute of limitations in South Carolina Code of Laws. So maybe. How does that even work? None? I'm putting this on the docket for a podcast. I'm putting this on the docket. I need a little bit more legal research. I'm putting this on Law Nerds. These are great questions. I'm putting this on the docket for a little bit more research. I would like to look beyond the quoting of these sections, but it seems that both felonies and misdemeanors do not have a statute of limitations, which is kind of breaking my brain at the moment that the limit literally does not exist. That's wild. South Carolina. Most statute of limitations on felonies are like 3 years, and then on serious felonies are more. We're going to come back to that. So here's where we're at with Courthouse Becky. For jury tampering in the Murdaugh case, I think we have a massive double jeopardy issue because they chose not to prosecute it. If there is information about other cases, my first concern would be statute of limitations because it is right now 2026. However, at a very quick look at numerous different sources, including their code of laws, it seems that perhaps South Carolina has no statute of limitations on misdemeanors or felonies. But because that answer breaks my brain, I want to look into it more. Put a giant footnote on that. EDB needs more info. Also, if you live in South Carolina, you need to know this. Because damn, what do you mean? What do you mean you could be in South Carolina, like making a story time video and like talking about something you did in your teens or early 20s, and they're like, hey, by the way, there's no statute of limitations. That's wild to me. Then again, Florida, you can get life without parole for a second-degree murder. I learn new things all the time. I love learning new things all the time. But we're gonna have to look into that a little bit more. So just put a note on that. So possibly with past cases, there might be a possibility. Finding that is going to be a problem. So we will see. The Carolina Ash said, but isn't double jeopardy being prosecuted twice? That is too much of a shorthand. She was in a position where she could have been prosecuted and wasn't. So it's put in jeopardy, not just prosecuted. So we will see. I'm making a note on that because we can't deep dive it today. But law nerds, I also would like to hold out the possibility that if there was fuckery in other cases, we might actually get to cite FAVFO. Because I think that aside from embarrassment when you go to the Piggly Wiggly, there should be some fucking find out when there is malfeasance in office. And you overturn a whole last trial. There should be some find out. That's how I feel. There should be some find out. We'll see. T-Cat said, so you're saying there's a chance. I am saying the door is not completely closed. And Kay said there are no statute of limitations on criminal offenses in South Carolina. Law nerds, you learn something new every day. You learn something new every day. There's the cloak of righteousness. South Carolina's like, we've got a cloak of righteousness. And if you fuck up, we're going to find you. Whenever that may be. We'll get to it. It kind of blows my mind that in Massachusetts, the like right to a speedy trial is not statutory. It's literally vibes. It's like, we'll get to it. Where in other jurisdictions, there are like calendar deadlines. Like your speedy trial means this many days versus vibes. We'll get to it. Vibes enough. My brain is buffering on that. I'm going to have to talk about this a bit more. I'm going to pull up this lawsuit real quick. I think we answered the questions on can she still be prosecuted for this? I really think it will be difficult for them to prosecute her for the Murdaugh case based on everything that's transpired thus far. I do. I wonder, I wonder what will happen next. Grimm's Nebula said, Emily, I loved the surprise that was on the back of the lanyard. I'm so glad. I'm so glad for all of you that are getting your Law Nerd merch. I'm so glad. A number of you asked me if Bloodworth had Law Nerd merch. Yes, that had already been gifted to him without spilling too much more tea. However, I also said we will be sending a care package. So do not worry. Lori, is Creighton prosecuting this trial too? It seems to be at this point that Creighton is the lead prosecutor on this case because he was the one at the press conference, not breathing and or blinking. And he has given a couple interviews about it. It seems that he is the lead prosecutor on this. That would make the most sense. Let's see. Lori said, tell Travis we are all proud of him and congrats. I absolutely will. I am so proud of him. He is almost packed for tour, which means he's going to get to enjoy the next few days with friends and family and not have to worry about packing for tour. So he is almost, I can't talk about this much more. He is almost packed for tour. I am very excited for him to go on tour. It is just surreal that we are like wrapping up like the college stuff. You always think you're going to have more time. You never do. This is Emily's, daily reminder of time is not guaranteed. And it's the one thing, lost time, right, chat? Lost time is never found. It is the one thing we always wish we had more of. And it has just happened so fast. The finishing up the things he needs for college because he doesn't have a whole summer to do that. And taking care of the things he needs for tour. But also, he is so ready. He's so ready, and I'm so proud of him. And it's such a different thing sending him off for tour his second year. I can't imagine the stress and somewhat anxiety of the families and the marchers who are doing a tour for the first time the summer before they go to college. So I wouldn't have it any other way for T. He is such a different, more confident, capable adult walking into this summer. And I'm so excited to see it. Like he's so ready, but also last year he walked into tour. And for those of you that are like, Emily, tour, DCI is the, as they call it on their website, the Major Leagues of Marching Band. It is the most exciting, beautiful expression of marching arts, but it is elite marching arts. And they put on extensive and gorgeous field shows. But they are gone for the entire summer. So they start at the end of May, the Cavaliers have a countdown on their Instagram every day. They're like, see you guys soon. He has less than a week. And they train for almost a month, build their entire show, and then get onto buses and go on tour all over the U.S. They finish at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. And then he has like a day turnaround to go to college because fall marching band starts. So it's getting everything ready before he goes. But him having the experience of being on tour last year and then coming home and going back to what was familiar is great experience to now going on to tour and going back into what is a little unfamiliar. But there are also people from his college marching band, and he has not shared where that will be yet. I will share when he's ready to share, but there are a lot of marchers in his college marching band that will also be on tour this summer. And he is getting really excited to see friends, to see staff members and team that he adores, to see friends from high school that are going on to their own corps to march. So he's really, really excited to be back in that world for the summer. And also, I think a little sad that there are things his high school friends are going to be doing before they all go off to college that he's going to miss because he's going to be marching. And it's like, it's two different worlds, right? Your high school world, your marching world and then your college world. So it's like 3 different worlds. So he is heading off for camp in a handful of days. And he's ready. I mean, he's ready to get back. He's ready to get back under the lights for sure. But he's also ready to be with his DCI community. Nothing pushes you quite like that. It's like D1 sports, truly. Nothing pushes you quite like that. And he loves being pushed like that. He loves the hard work. He loves the, I can't do that, but I'm going to get it. And the opportunity to be like, last year I couldn't do that, this year I can. The same way you push yourself in athletics. And he is so excited. So I'm excited and proud. I'm excited and proud. I can't wait to see what the Cavaliers do this year. The teases have been incredible. They kick off in Muncie. But if there's we'll talk about DCI a little bit more. There's a streaming service that we shared last year, Flow Marching, that I need to reach out and talk to them. I will be talking about where I am going. If there's an indoor venue, EDP will probably be there. But I'm excited. It is a D1 level athletic endeavor, and that's fun to see. So the Cavaliers, I'm excited for what they're going to put on the field. He's in color guard. We will see what spot he will be later. I have no idea as he gets into camp. I will hope that he is not the first one to get stitches this summer. He was the first one to get stitches last summer. It'll be great. So I'm excited for him. I'm not ready for all of the change. So Yorkie Mom, they do a whole Texas tour. Lawyer ESQ, my band director dad used to take me to the San Antonio event. It was amazing. I ran into so many amazing law nerds at San Antonio. It was a lot of fun. I ran into a wonderful law nerd. Shout out to Wonderful Law Nerd. I think I shared this story. We're pulling up this lawsuit, I swear. I think I shared this story. But I ran out, Kim Brown, the Swamp Tour. I ran into a wonderful law nerd at Buc-ee's in Texas at like 9 a.m. because we were driving from Houston to Houston. Y'all, that heat and humidity is its own special atmosphere. But we were driving from Houston to San Antonio. And this law nerd buffered in real time seeing me and was like, Emily, I think he heard me talking because that's when he turned around and was like, Emily. I'm like, hey. And he's like, and just kind of looked at me and was like, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing in your Buc-ee's in the middle of Texas this fine morning? And he's like, something like that. Something like that. And I was like, DCI. We're going to DCI. But sitting in a stadium, even at night, in that heat and humidity was different. Different experience for me. It was new. It was warm. All the things. Let's take a look at this lawsuit. Where did I even put my... Is it the one thing I didn't add in here? Great, we're done for the day. I'm teasing. We're not done for the day. I have it in a different file. I just thought I had it here. Emily, you should have been pulling it up. I know. We should have been prepping. I know. Prepping house, not cases. It's fine. Some days are like that. Some days are less like that. Where is my... We've already talked about it quite a bit, but where is my Murdaugh sues Courthouse Becky situation? There we go. Let's get into this lawsuit real quick. We are not going through every single line of all 17 pages. Don't worry. We don't need to. We know most of this. I suspect exactly who said, "Where's my super suit?" That's exactly naturally Deb. Where's my super suit? Honey, where's my super suit? Yes. Let's take a look at this lawsuit, shall we? Let's swoop. Did we swoop? We didn't swoop. Let's swoop. We did Q&A in the middle and we didn't swoop. Swoop. Also, if you see me at Buc-ee's, first of all, come say hi. Second of all, yes, I do need that much dill pickle popcorn. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It's so fucking good. If you don't like pickles, I can't help you. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. There is not a Buc-ee's in my state yet. Yes, I do. I do need that much pickle popcorn because eventually I will run out. I do not have one close to me in actually, I think there is one on the other side of the state. I don't have one near me in Tennessee yet. But there's a Buc-ee's almost everywhere I go for summer tour and for band in general. We've always been able to find a Buc-ee's, whether we're in Athens, Alabama, and then we've been to the one in up the 65 in Kentucky. I forget exactly which one that is off the top of my head. But yeah, we have. Okay. Lawsuit. Murdaugh v. I have been to the one in Athens, Alabama. It's great. We were at a high school down there for a winter guard competition. A lovely high school. Murdaugh v. Hill. Plaintiff sues defendant. We know. Plaintiff sues defendant. We're aware. Good for us. What did this do? Go back there. Stop it. I'm going to go full Cartman in a second. Stop it. Document. There we go. Emily fights with technology. It's really just a document. And I pulled it up this way and now I can't dark mode it, which makes me really sad because I loved that last time. I need to figure out how to do it in this view. I'll figure it out one of these days. Either way. Plaintiff Alec Murdaugh, through his lawyers, brings this civil rights action against Courthouse Becky Hill for the following fuckery. Emily, are we reading it? It's an interpretive reading today because vibes. Nature of the action. This is a civil rights action pursuant to 42 USC 1983. This is your deprivation of rights. This is the same code section we are seeing in some of the Karen Reed lawsuits for the investigation. I have not seen this type of deprivation of rights lawsuit in my memory when we're in a retrial. I have seen these more commonly when someone is acquitted and then generally they go after law enforcement like we're seeing in the Karen Reed litigation. This is a different type of lawsuit. Oh, L.I.J. Peach. No, that's just a J. L.J. Peach. There is the bit. How did I forget the Sevierville Buc-ee's? The Sevierville Buc-ee's is amazing. Jennifer, I will always out myself this way. Jennifer said, Emily, the SoCal came out when you said the 65. It is ingrained into my soul. I can't say I-65 without a lot of conscious effort. The Sevierville Buc-ee's is so good. However, it is the other side of the state, basically. But it's great. It used to be the biggest one in the... Anyway, Emily, more about Buc-ee. I could talk to you about the Sevierville Buc-ee's all day long, and I really can't forget because we talked about the Sevierville Buc-ee's so much on a members only. Do you guys remember all the stories about the Sevierville Buc-ee's? Everything came back to the Severe. It's like, it's 42. It's the thing that's linked us all together. Bev said, Emily, I just watched the Cavaliers Shapeshift. Isn't it good? I know, I tried watching that on members only with everybody and I cried through a lot of it. Shapeshift was so good. Nature of the action. Becky be up to fuckery. We're suing for the, quote, deliberate and egregious deprivation of plaintiff's constitutional right to a fair trial before an impartial jury, guaranteed by the 6th and 14th Amendments of the Constitution. No right touches more the heart of fairness in trial than the right to an impartial jury. And then they're quoting the case law on that. And they say that right was stolen from Alec Murdaugh by Becky Hill. On March 7th, 2023. Wait, did the verdict really come down on March 7th? That I had forgotten it was the 7th. I remember how flustered I was picking up Travis from band practice, but this makes so much more sense. Because that's also his birthday. This makes so much sense. I remember how flustered I was when the verdict came down. I did not remember the date. This makes sense. On March 7th, following a 6-week trial in Colton County, South Carolina, Mr. Murdaugh was convicted of the murders of his wife, Margaret Maggie Murdaugh, and his son, Paul Pawpaw Murdaugh. They left that out, thankfully. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms. May it weigh heavy on his soul. He maintained his innocence then. He maintains his innocence now. Neither Murdaugh nor his counsel at the time of trial knew that Miss Hill, the elected clerk of court, the officer of the court charged as the primary caretaker of the jury, had secretly and deliberately inserted herself into the jury's deliberative processes for personal financial gain. As the Supreme Court of South Carolina has now held, Miss Hill, quote, placed her fingers on the scales of justice. Yep. Acting under color of state law, this goes directly to being able to bring the 1983 deprivation of rights action. She is an elected official. Under the color of state law, as an official, she abused the power and authority of her elected office. And Emily, interjection here, she's been convicted, well, she pled guilty to abusing her power in office, not related to this, but related from stealing money. If you are on a civil jury, it does not matter what a dick you think Alec Murdaugh is, because both of them can be wrong. It doesn't mean in this instance, Becky Hill isn't the bigger asshole. And when you get to a civil case, yeah, Alec Murdaugh might have stolen from his clients and this, that, and that. But that doesn't mean it's okay for you, clerk of court, to interfere with the jury as an abuse of your job. Two bad people can still do bad things to each other. And one of them can be right, one of them can be wrong in this civil case. I've not seen this in the circumstance of a retrial being granted. I'm curious how that will go as we go forward, but I'm really curious by this because the Supreme Court of South Carolina said that she did the thing that they're suing her over. They've already said she did this. And that's an interesting posture to be in going into a civil suit when the highest court of the state has already said you did it. They go on to say that acting under her authority of her elected office, she made repeated improper extrajudicial communications to jurors in which she urged them not to be fooled, confused, thrown off, or convinced by Murdaugh and his defense. In doing so, Ms. Hill, quote, became a character witness on behalf of the state, encouraging the jurors to question Murdaugh's credibility and implore the jurors to find him guilty on the ultimate issue of the case. Hill's motive was her self-serving desire for personal profit. She wanted to write a book about the most high-profile trial in South Carolina history. Didn't Harpootlian also write a book about this? Didn't he say he was starting a podcast? Mm-hmm. Hi, it's me. I also have a podcast. Started before this case. She believed a guilty verdict would be the best way to sell books. I absolutely believe the statements from Rhonda McElveen, the other clerk of court, about that Rhonda came off about just as credible as anybody could be. She was, they say of Becky Hill, in the words of former Chief Justice Toll, attracted to the siren call of celebrity and allowed her desire for the public attention of the moment to overcome her duty to her oath of office. There's nothing new in this. They took everything everybody else has said and put it into a lawsuit pretty well. Her job was to protect the jurors from outside influence, make sure they don't fuck with the thermostat, and get them snacks. I added some of those things in here. Her conduct was, according to the South Carolina Supreme Court, breathtaking, disgraceful, and unprecedented in South Carolina. On May 13th, 2026, the Supreme Court of South Carolina unanimously reversed the Murdaugh's murder convictions and remanded for new trial, holding that Ms. Hill's jury tampering violated Murdaugh's constitutional right to a fair and impartial jury. Right. EWK said, how is there not a special prosecutor for her? There was a special prosecutor for Becky Hill, but SLED still investigated it. They're going to go through who the parties are. We know who the parties are. Jurisdiction and venue. This is South Carolina shit. It's happening in South Carolina. Factual allegations are that she talked to the jurors, which we've seen. They say that court was not held on February 20th, which was President's Day. After returning from the holiday, defendant Becky Hill began to enter the jury rooms often. Remember, there were 2 jury rooms, and they allowed the jurors to be in both of them. As the defense began its case, Ms. Hill told the jurors, y'all are going to hear things that will throw you all off. Don't let this distract you or mislead you. These are things we saw in their new trial motion as well. We saw this in the new trial motion, what's coming up, but we did not see this in the Supreme Court case. Additionally, Ms. Hill and juror number 826, the new jury foreperson, on multiple occasions went to another room to have private conversations lasting 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes they would go into the jury room's single occupancy bathroom together. I have so many more fucking questions about this. This came up. I believe this juror, when questioned about it, denied it. Weird stuff. Ms. Hill even instructed jurors that they could not ask juror foreperson 826 about the conversations. It's weird. We saw these out. For those of you who are, I see a lot of you in chat are like, wait, what the fuck? This came up in the new trial motions. These allegations came up then, that they were having like bathroom convos. Dude, nope. That's way too, that's just not enough space. That's just not enough space. Not enough space. 2 days later, on Thursday, February 23rd, and continuing the next day, Murdaugh testified in his own defense. Before he began his testimony, Ms. Hill told jurors not to be fooled by evidence Mr. Murdaugh's attorneys presented, which at least one juror understood to mean that Mr. Murdaugh would lie when he testified. Ms. Hill also instructed the jury to watch him closely, look at his actions, look at his movements, which at least one juror took to mean that Mr. Murdaugh was guilty. Immediately after Murdaugh testified, foreperson 826 told the jury that Murdaugh was crying on cue. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. That's new information to my memory. I don't remember the crying on cue part from the new trial motions, but it's been a minute. She also criticized the former foreperson, juror number 589, for handing Mr. Murdaugh a box of tissues when he was crying on the stand, because this is what the defense wants us to do. It's such a human thing. It's such a human thing. If you have a box of Kleenex in front of you and somebody's in front of you crying, it is just such a human response to grab the Kleenex and hand them to that person. This came up in a case one of my colleagues was trying, where she was I think she had sneezed once or twice during questioning a witness, and the juror tried to hand her Kleenex and said, like, bless you, and tried to hand her Kleenex. And they had to have a whole bunch of hearings with the juror. Like, why did you do that? Are you pro-prosecution? Because you can't, you can't touch, no interaction. There's like a wall, and you're just looking through the glass at the trial as the jury. You are not meant to interact with it. Is not meant to be interactive with you, but it is such a human thing. If you have Kleenex in front of you and you see someone crying or you see someone sneezing, to just be, bless you, here. It's so hard not to, if that's your personality. And then can you imagine how mortified to the judge be like, what did you mean by that? It's like, first of all, I would probably be like, they're sneezing and there's no Kleenex. Like, ew, bro. They're like 3 feet away from me. Gross. Like, take a tissue. Gross. But you can't have the appearance that one juror now favors an attorney or a party. But it's so human to just be like, here's a fucking tissue. Insert funny name says, you're describing trial like a zoo. Yeah, kind of. The jury box in that bar, you don't interact with what's on the other side. You just there, you sit and watch. You don't interact. And that's really, really hard to do because they're like 3 feet away from you. It's hard. But yeah, if somebody's sneezing a bunch, I'd want to give them Kleenex too. I get it. It's hard. But this interaction between the jurors is interesting. That one juror is telling the jury that Murdaugh's crying on cue, which is also improper. You cannot talk about the case. Let's not just, as I get wrapped into the Kleenex of it all, let's not forget that the jury is not supposed to talk about the case at all until deliberations. Saying that Murdaugh was crying on cue should have gotten that juror yeeted. Saying anything other than, can we touch the thermostat? It's fucking cold in here. What's for lunch? How was your day? You know, what's your starting configuration in chess? I don't know. Anything other than the case. That conversation is improper. Unless it happened during deliberation. And if it happened during deliberation, it's interesting that we know about it now, isn't it? Because it seems that the juror that was the most conversant with the defense is the egg lady juror who did not deliberate. So if this happened during deliberations, egg lady juror wouldn't have known. So where is this information coming from? And did this happen before deliberations? And if it did, that juror should have been yeeted too. Yeah. If you were a juror who heard that from another, would you need to tell the judge? Yes. Or the bailiff. Say, hey, I heard 2 of the jurors talking about the case. It's happened in other cases that we've covered where jurors have been talking and got yeeted. We've seen it a couple times now. In the Cardi B defamation case, it was more innocuous than this. It was talking about like YouTube earnings. And one of the jurors saying to the other jurors, like, can you believe all of that with like the social media stuff? And that's talking about the case. That juror got yeeted immediately. Continuing on. I have so asterisk around all that. The next court day after Mr. Murdaugh's testimony, Monday, February 27th, Ms. Hill told the trial judge, Judge Newman, about a Facebook posting that she purportedly saw the evening of Friday, February 24th, while perusing a Facebook group page called The Walterboro Word of Mouth. And from everything described and all the other motions that we've covered, this basically seems like next door. The post purportedly by juror number 785, that's Egg Lady's husband, allegedly stated that his ex-wife was saying that she was on the jury and saying stuff about how her verdict was going to be. I'm just going to put a note in here now. And I think every case that we have, not every, in quite a few of the cases we have covered, someone has purported to either have information from the jury or be a juror. I have seen all of those come back as being false. We have seen it take up quite a lot of court time. This happens in every televised case, that people are out there on social media pretending to be jurors. We have not seen it ever verified that it was actually a juror. It's always been fake. Again, I think people want to see the chaos that they create. Which is why I think courts should handle it in chambers and not put it on the public record ever. That is my advice, because people will do it to watch you talk about them. So, don't do that. It happened in Brooks as well. So, people want to watch it play out. Courts should handle this kind of stuff on the record in chambers outside of the public view until the end of trial, and then it can be unsealed. Continuing on, because we've gone through this now 1,500 times. Judge Newman asked Ms. Hill to produce a copy of the posting. She could not produce a copy. But according to Ms. Hill, a subordinate employee in the clerk's office discovered that the post was taken down and replaced with an apology post. I have so many questions about all of this. Quote, folks, I posted an ugly post yesterday, to which I have deleted, and I kinda, in a roundabout way, directed it towards a certain person, and I would like to apologize for everyone who read it. That ugly for me to do. And yes, I let Satan control me, and I broke down and started drinking. And when I was drunk, I made that post, and I'm sorry. I have so many I need an IP address. I need an IP address. I have so many questions about all of this. The quote unquote apology post states the initial post was already deleted on February 16th. So it would have been impossible for Ms. Hill to see the original post on February 24th. I have so many fucking questions. Then they investigated it. Juror 785, Egg Lady's ex-husband has averred, that sworn affidavit, has averred in a sworn affidavit, that he made no such post. Murdaugh has obtained an authentic download of the entirety of the Facebook activity from January 23rd to March 2nd. What about before that? Which confirms he did not post the apology, the supposed original post if he deleted. I'm going to need a subpoena from Facebook directly. Go get it from Facebook. And now they can. Oh, wait. The supposed original post, if deleted, would not be recoverable at this point under Facebook's retention policies. That's right. I forget this is 3 years ago. And that he, in fact, never posted anything in the Walterboro Word of Mouth Facebook page during the trial. But was he in that Facebook group? Was he part of that Facebook group at that time? On February 28th, Ms. Hill questioned Juror 785 about the fictitious post on the Walterboro Word of Mouth alone in her office at the courthouse. This never should have happened. And if the judge caught wind of this, there should have been an investigation into it then. She never should have done that. I know that the court, we read the transcripts where the court told her that this was inappropriate. Oh, sorry, that was me. I scared myself. That was my calendar notification. Actually made me jump out of my skin. Because now we are so deep in the fuckery, I'm just sitting here going, what the fuck? Sorry, y'all. I jumped. I know, it scared me too. All of you jumped. Apologies. Scared the crap out of myself. What time is it? Oh. Because I am like late. Oh dear. I'm running very late. All right. Chat. I am running late. Okay. Let me zoom a little bit. Apologies, chat. That's totally on me. This, for those of you that are like, Emily, what is going on with this juror? This is all in all of the previous motions we have done. We have seen so much discussion of this. So I apologize for zooming. But we've seen the transcripts of this when we did the new trial motions. After juror 785 was dismissed, Judge Newman said, "Oh boy, I'm not too pleased about the clerk interrogating a juror as opposed to coming to me and bringing it to me." That is the quote I was thinking of. Emily, keep reading. The next day on March 1st, the jury visited Moselle, the property at the site of the murders. During the visit, the foreperson and Hill walked off to have yet another private conversation. In her book, Ms. Hill more vaguely hints at communicating her opinion on Murdaugh's guilt by saying, quote, and this is from the book, "While the jurors viewed the Moselle property, we all could hear and see Alex's story was impossible." Because she thinks of herself as the 13th juror. "Some of us, either from the courthouse, law enforcement, or jury at Moselle, had an epiphany and shared our thoughts with our eyes. At that moment, many of us standing there knew, I knew, and they knew that Alec was guilty." She's smizing at the jurors at Moselle. We locked eyes. And in that moment, my soul connected with their soul, and I knew. Guilty. So fucking wild. So wild. Judge Newman held an in-camera conference. The court, okay, well, let me see what Becky is talking about. I want to revisit the Facebook post that you mentioned yesterday. Ms. Hill, right? The court, that's Becky Hill, the clerk of court. Can you tell us about the Facebook post? Ms. Hill, yes, I think it was Friday evening. Just for a brief moment, I perused Facebook. I got on Walterboro word of mouth and saw where someone had said that, well, it was the ex-husband of a juror and that he had noticed that his ex-wife was saying that she was on the jury and saying stuff about how her verdict was going to be, and that he was the ex-husband, but she was known for talking way too much. So she's a talker. We're back to she's a talker. She's telling them everything. And then I just kept scrolling because that was enough for me. I've gotten enough. What, we've done the damage we needed to do here? I got what I needed. That was enough. And you didn't take a fucking screenshot of it? The court. And how did you determine who he was talking about? How the fuck do you know whose ex-husband it is? Ms. Hill, when I heard there was an email on Monday, I figured the two went together if it was true. Sus. Hold on. For the law nerds who requested that this be on the soundboard, it is on the soundboard. It's been on the soundboard for a minute.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
There was an email, guys. Saw the email and went, those two things must be connected. And then the court says, well, she's confirmed she has an ex-husband and she has 3 restraining orders out against. So, and Ms. Hill said, right. So then we looked on Monday after you told me to try to go back and look for it and we couldn't find it. But then we found out his name and we found the post and printed it out where he said he had put something up, but that he had deleted it at the time, that he had put the stuff out there that wasn't nice. The court, he said he got drunk afterwards. Mr. Metters, something about the devil. Of course, Mr. Metters. Thank you. Something about the devil. Mr. Harpootlian, didn't he say it was Satan? Miss Hill, Satan was in it. Yes. In all the details. Yes. Satan. It gets back to Satan. Miss Hill, Satan was in it. Yes. In all of the details. Yes. Apparently more than we knew, Miss Hill. The court, all right, Miss Hill made me do it. Look at Becky Hill telling on herself. Look at Becky Hill telling on herself. Emily, you're reading too much into this, possibly. The court, okay. I think Miss Hill's statement was continuing. Satan was in it, yes, and all the details, yes, made me do it. I think it was continuing. The court interjected, but also, Annie Bebop, the devil is in the details. Ding, ding, ding. The court, okay, I just wanted to have that on the record. You're reading a Facebook post by the ex-husband who said it. Of course, I mean, presumably. Of course, you haven't talked with him, so you don't know where he got his information. Miss Hill said, I don't. I can find it, though. They're saying that Miss Hill never saw such a Facebook post. She made it up. She knew that the apology post was not posted by Juror 785's husband. Juror 785 showed Miss Hill a picture of her ex-husband, which is not the Facebook profile picture of the other Mr. Stone's post about Satan. I mean, the post wasn't about Satan, but whatever. The next day, juror number 785 received a call from her ex-husband that she did not answer. The call upset her. We saw all of this recited by the Supreme Court as well. And then it came up that the juror was talking and had a conversation with tenants at the building. When the jury began deliberations that evening, Ms. Hill told them this shouldn't take long, and if they deliberated past 11 p.m., they would be taken directly to a hotel, even though none were prepared to stay overnight. They never told the jurors that they would be sequestered. Ms. Hill told jurors that after the trial, they would be famous and predicted that the media would request interviews with them. Ms. Hill even handed out reporters' business cards to the jurors during the trial. Only the reporters that she liked, apparently. Juror 578 took this to heart and made an appearance on Good Morning America the night of the verdict, which is why on the day the jury began deliberations, he wore a suit coat for the first time during the trial. After the verdict and immediately before sentencing, Ms. Hill pressured the jury to speak as a group to reporters for a network news show. She traveled with the jurors to New York City, when they appeared on the Today Show. She decided to arrange a little field trip. And then she went and escorted a bunch of adults to a television program that arranges for all of their travel. I wonder who brokered that appearance. Oh, we saw that in the emails. Miss Hill got her book deal. I don't know if that's true. I think it was self-published. I don't think she got a book deal. I think she wrote a book. I don't think it was a book deal. Got her book deal. Her book, Behind the Doors of Justice, was released in August 1st, 2023. She had been planning to write a book before the trial even began. In the period leading up to the trial, she repeatedly told coworkers that a guilty verdict would sell more books. She needed a lake house. We've seen all that before. They go on and recite what the jurors testified to, which we saw. We saw this in the Supreme Court's ruling. Literally all of this is re-reciting the Supreme Court's ruling that we just went through, including the transcript, which makes this pretty solid. They are quoting Justice Toll's ruling that we covered. On March 25th, 2024, Ms. Hill resigned from office. In May 2024, it was reported that the State Ethics Commission had referred ethics complaints about Ms. Hill for criminal prosecution. We'll link those videos below. If you have not seen my video breaking down all the ethics complaints, put that on your list. It's a lot of information. And that gets into her son, who is also pending charges on wiretapping. He was the IT director for this county. So there's that. They go through the South Carolina's ruling again, using the words of the Supreme Court to show the reason that they are bringing this case, which is she deprived Alec Murdaugh of his right to a fair trial by an impartial jury, which the Supreme Court said. Here's the part I was looking for. Following the revelation of Mr. Murdaugh's financial crimes, a South Carolina court placed him in receivership. Mr. Murdaugh had funded his murder trial defense with a $600,000 withdrawal from his 401k. This withdrawal to fund his legal defense was authorized by the court overseeing the receivership. I have beef with that, but whatever. These retirement funds were employer contributions to his retirement account, untainted by any criminal activity, and were his sole remaining asset. Again, the reason he could put so much into his retirement fund is because he was stealing the other money. But they ruled on it, and I can't undo that. Murdaugh spent his entire $600,000 on his trial defense. The South Carolina Supreme Court ruled that Ms. Hill's actions, motivated by her own desire for profit, caused these funds to be lost. That is why they are suing for $600,000. One cause of action, deprivation of rights, depriving Murdaugh of a fair trial, as guaranteed by the Constitution, and seeking $600,000 signed by Philip Barber. I'm not surprised that Barber wrote this. They did a very, very good job, I think, of taking together everything the courts have said and the factual scenario the courts found, streamlining it. Easy for us because we've watched it so much. Streamlining what the courts have found that Becky did. Pointing out that the reason this got overturned is because the clerk of court put her fingers on the scales of justice and interfered with the jury. And that has cost Alec $600,000 of a trial that's now been overturned, and he's going to have to do it again. A lot of you are saying only $600,000. $600,000 is all that Alec could pay. That was the cap. This probably cost them more than that, but they are going after the money that Alec Murdaugh had to pay for the trial, and it was capped at $600,000. I don't know how much the lawyers actually got paid in all of that, because some of that's going to go to experts, what have you. But that was the cap of the money that he got from the receivership. There was no more there. So that's what they are going after. Does Clerk of Court Becky Hill have $600,000? Probably not. Alec Murdaugh has a very interesting case here, because on the civil side of this, there is a loss of money that he has to go through a new trial because of her actions. He's been granted a new trial, which means he is harmed by the waste of that money on the first trial. And Becky Hill is going to have a hard time defending this. I'm really curious to see how this moves forward. Because no matter what you think of Alec Murdaugh, Becky Hill has cost him and the taxpayers of South Carolina quite a lot of money by interceding. And it is undeniable that she interceded. So, where do we go from here? Well, we've got a civil case and a new criminal trial, and I have got to scoot. I'm glad we did Q&A in the middle, because I've got to scoot. Yes, there is a Becky Hill playlist. There is just a Becky playlist. Yeah, there is. But this is not going to go away anytime soon. And I am interested to see what the discovery into Becky Hill continues to dig up. I am very, very curious. Lawnards, you are absolutely the best. If you have not caught up on all of the things going on with Murdaugh and Clerk of Court Becky, this week is a perfect time. I'm not going to be streaming the rest of the week. This is the perfect time to catch up. If things happen throughout the week, I will update you in the Lawnard app. In the lounge, I will be putting this up. I am running late, but Emily, we're shocked. But this will be up before the end of the day in the Lawnard lounge for you. This lawsuit is taking together the history of what we've seen with Courthouse Becky and putting it in a more concise way. I will share with you in the app a little bit about T's graduation and hopefully an improved picture that he lets me share with y'all. I'm sure he will. Lawnards, thank you. I appreciate you. You are the best. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Have a good Memorial Day weekend this following weekend. I will talk to you soon. Thank you, Mods and Team Baker. I've got to go. You guys are the best. Let's roll the outro, and I will see you soon. Cheers, Lawnards. Thank you for joining me. Make sure you don't miss a live stream or any of the updates on the cases that you care about most with the Lawnerd app at lawnerdapp.com. It's a free download on iOS and Android, so I can keep you in the loop, because you never know when something's going to pop off. Thanks for being here, and thanks for being a Law Nerd.